Everybody, if you're on this and I know you're listening, the market is picking up. I don't know if Dennis wants to chime in on this, but the real estate market is picking up. I don't from the market that I'm in Florida and I'm in Virginia market, working both markets, and I see it's a lot more buyers coming in. Properties are selling faster. They're selling at a little higher priced than what they were. So the market is picking up, which is good news. So if you can wholesale properties, right now it's a great real estate season. I don't know if Dennis want to chime in on that or not. Um,
Well, yeah, the cool thing about apartment buildings that we're going to get into is that houses crashed and burned. Tony, you should have that. I sent that over to you, so you should be seeing that sometime.
yep.
Um, but the interesting thing was that house prices crashed back in starting in '05, '06, and apartments really resisted that. And then the apartments finally crashed. And what's happened, what's really interesting, is that apartment prices crashed, then apartment occupancy crashed, and so everybody was vacant, and their buildings had gone down to half their value. And what's happened since then is the economy's picked up a little bit, so occupancy is back better than it was before, but prices still haven't gone up that much. So it's really, and that's one
Right.
of the things we're going to talk about if we can ever get this PowerPoint open. It's one of the things we're going to talk about is just how this is a really a once in a generational opportunity. And we keep hearing that, but for apartment buildings, really we've got a short window here where prices are going to be really low and really reasonable, and occupancy is off the chart. So it's the perfect time to be in the middle, being a middleman, trying to find these deals, these flip deals that we're talking about, and that folks want to sell because they're retiring or whatever, and sell them to cash buyers because the demand is off the charts from these buyers. Well, let me kind of share while we're going through this is the couple of big ideas I want to share with everybody tonight. Okay, it's really I call this presentation my game changer webinar because it really is a game changer for most people when they really kind of get apartment buildings when they really realize what it'll do for them. And the
Mhm.
first kind of game changing big idea and life changing big idea is you need to realize that it really is possible to make, we're talking, Antonio, $30,000 to $50,000 checks flipping apartment buildings.
Mhm.
A friend of mine that I taught doing this, and it's unbelievable, and I'll tell you about him in a couple minutes once we get to it. But he is working on the biggest apartment flipping check I've ever seen. He's doing a 4 unit in a really cool area, and it's interesting because he's not sure he wants to actually sell it, but the
Right.
check is going to be $200,000
Mm.
as an assignment fee on a 4 unit apartment building. I have never seen anything like this before. But this is a guy, 28-year-old guy who's just going after this like crazy, and
Mhm.
literally um, trying to decide whether or not to keep this building because the upside or the other side of the equation is that he can either take a quick $200,000 payoff on this or payout because
Mhm.
he's into it for 125 and he can sell it for 325,
Mhm.
or he can keep it and make $6,000 a month net income. So he's really torn about that. So the first kind of game changing and life changing idea that I want to get across is that you really can, it seriously can make $50,000 checks flipping apart building. It really is possible. And part of the reason that we do that is if you kind of understand wholesaling houses, and I know you do that. You do that all the time, Antonio. But when you wholesale houses, and most of the people on the line, I'm sure, do this as well. A lot of people do. Is that houses are discrete. There's a lot of them around, and if you go into a neighborhood, I know when I do that, there's not really a lot of negotiation when I wholesale a house. Everybody knows what the values are. Everybody knows what they're worth, and so it may be a couple $100 up or down or whatever with the value when I try and sell one, but it's going to be between 4 and 5 grand in the neighborhoods that I generally wholesale. So, and you're not
Mhm.
going to get much variation with that. With apartment buildings,
Right.
however, the values aren't that cut and dry. It really is a lot to do with the income and the area and everything. And so there's a lot more wiggle room, especially when you get up to a couple $100,000 in value. So 30 to $50,000 checks and more are definitely possible. And my buddy Andrew found I mean, a $200,000 check is right, it's within his reach right now. And I didn't even believe it until he showed me the numbers.
Is his market in the Michigan market?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's in. We're looking in the same areas. We're actually partner on some deals and stuff like that. But this guy's just gone bananas with these ideas. I mean, he's doing really well. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, he's literally a 4 unit. He got it under contract for 125. He actually closed on it. Normally, you don't close on it when you flip because you just sell it to a cash buyer. But he closed on it because he couldn't decide what he wants to do about it. So now he's holding it. And he's trying to decide whether or not he wants to sell it for 325.
right.
So absolutely incredible,
Uh,
absolutely incredible. And he doesn't have any of his own money in the deal either. He has private money funding this whole 125 that he paid cash for it. So he's sitting going, I got this thing basically with none of my own money in it. I can either make 6 grand a month if I keep it and pay off the loan in what, a year and a half,
mhm.
you know, or I can, get a cool, easy check for 200 grand if I want to sell it. So he's got
Right.
it's a good problem to have.
And when you said 6,500 net, right?
Net, yes,
Right, right.
net.
So when you say for all the listeners out there, 6,500 net, that's cash flow every single month.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what. Yep. After whatever expenses and everything, that's what he's putting in his pocket every single month.
Okay. That's
So
that's
it's
that's that's
unbelievable. It's
that's
unbelievable. So the first kind of game changing, life changing, big idea is that you can seriously make $30,000 to $50,000 checks or more flipping apartment buildings. Then the second the game changing idea is that the cool thing about apartment flipping is that you can flip your first apartment building in the next 90 to 120 days from today, and it's even if you don't have any money or credit. And this is the incredible thing about apartment flips is that the way that the process works, there are cash buyers lined up, and we'll talk about that in a second. Cash buyers are lined up around the corner to buy these things because there is no inventory. So when you become a deal finder, you're going to have a ready-made source of buyers, and plus because the way the process works, you're going to have enough time in the way that the deal process flows is that you don't have to bring any money to the table at all when you flip these apartment buildings. And this is the most incredible thing because Antonio, I know we always hear everybody's got a deal, where it doesn't take any money, it doesn't take any credit, everything like that. And a lot of them, some of them are legit, some of them aren't. This is the one of the ones that's the easiest and most legit. Literally no money out of your pocket or no credit necessary
mhm.
opportunities that I've ever seen in my life.
All
All
right.
right, so let's go to keep going until big idea number two. Well, actually, let's go. We've covered some of the stuff already.
Mhm.
Okay, next one, right here. The next one after that, right there. Okay, back up one. Sorry about that. Okay, one of the things that Antonio mentioned up front, and I get this question a lot I've taught this a lot in person. I've not done this much online or to folks that I don't know. But the question I get all the time is, what is apartment flipping? And I want to clarify that up front so you know really from the get-go the difference between apartment flipping and house flipping and house wholesaling.
Mhm.
What apartment flipping is not, what I'm not talking about I'm not talking about, and what everybody normally thinks it is it's you go buy a burned out shell of a building for pennies on the dollar. You spend 20 or 30 or more $1,000 per unit replacing the plumbing, replacing the electrical, replacing the drywall, replacing the cabinets, the flooring, everything, new roof, new everything, and then filling up with tenants and then selling the whole thing to somebody with a couple $1 million.
Mm. Hello.
We're not talking about that kind of flipping because you can't do that.
Muted.
Can you hear me?
You're not.
Unmuted.
Okay. Can you hear me,
I can hear
y'all?
you.
Okay. Thought we had a little glitch for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, it looked like it hiccuped a little bit. So
Right.
Muted.
we're not talking about flipping like in house flipping. We're talking about something a lot different because I know people that flip apartment buildings. They take a ton of money. They are an absolute ton of risk, and they're not something that beginners or even experienced guys, I think, really, unless you got a ton of experience, ought to accomplish. I had a guy who was an experienced house flipper and done hundreds of them, and kind of bragging to me that he was going to take down this big apartment building and didn't know anything about it. He came to me, asked me for some advice, and I said, "Man, I don't know anything about this. I just know it's really risky, and it's not the same thing as doing houses. You need to be careful." And of course, he laughed it off and thought that he was Tarzan and he knew everything, and went and tried to do this big 35 unit building in downtown Detroit. There was a burned out shell, and very nearly went bankrupt because it's not the same thing as flipping houses. It's really risky, and it's dangerous to do that kind of stuff. So we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is similar to, like you mentioned earlier, Antonio, similar to wholesaling houses. So in with apartment flipping, we're gonna be deal finders. We're gonna find deals. We're gonna put them under contract. We're gonna do a little bit of math like you do with wholesaling, except we're gonna add a half a step to that. Then we're going to find a cash buyer, and then we're going to close, and we're going to cash five-figure checks. And the difference is, like we talked about, is an extra zero on the end of your checks when you're flipping apartment buildings. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about flipping apartment buildings, and that's what I want everybody to take forward as we move forward in the presentation. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, keep going. Okay, we've talked about this. The first big idea, the game changer and life changer idea is earning 30 to 50,000
Unmuted.
apartment buildings. We talked about that. Let's move forward. Okay, this is where we kind of left off. Um, the way that the process works for the apartment purchase process is that um, you can absolutely do this in the next 90 to 120 days because we're dealing with cash buyers, and cash buyers like to close quickly. And I
Hmm.
know I get calls, every month, every couple of weeks actually, from people all over the country asking me if I've got any apartments available, if I know any in my market or any other market in the 20 to 50 unit range that they can buy, because there's a ton of money on the sidelines. Everybody wants to buy them, and there's hardly anything for sale. So there's a ton of opportunity, and these people are waiting on the sidelines with checkbooks open, ready to write these checks for these things. So it's possible to do it in the next 190 to 120 days from today. And like we talked about, you can do it with no money or credit because the cash buyer will pay the earnest money, and the earnest money is like in a wholesale deal. The earnest money is the only thing that changes hands in this thing until the buyer closes on it. And nine times or 9.5 times out of 10, my cash buyer pays the earnest money deposit. So I'm in these deals for nothing at all, and still making five-figure checks. It's just the unbelievable thing. Antonio, the crazy thing is that when I first told my wife about this,
Hmm.
I can make, I'm going to make a $30,000 check on the deal, and it's not going to cost us anything. She thought it was illegal. It's like she goes, there's something wrong with this. She's like, are you dealing drugs out the back door or something like that? And it's like, no, 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 no. Let me draw it out. And she's smart. We met in grad school, and so I just sketched out for her. I said, this is the way it works as a process. And she's going, this is amazing. I said, you got to teach it to other people. This is awesome. And she thought the same thing. This is life-changing income. I mean, think about how many $30,000 checks the average person has to make in a year to quit their job and to really change their lives. Probably
Hmm.
one or two, and it's a major change to folks' lives. So
That's
that's why this is so cool, right? So okay, let's go on to the next one.
so.
And the
So
Yeah,
real,
go ahead.
real quick, because I know people are just listening and watching this. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably they're like they might still have a non-disbelief, still type of that disbelief in them. Like, man, 40, $50,000. I know a lot of people still working to still make $5,000 per deal. So just how realistic is this? Is it really real, Dennis?
Antonio, yeah, yeah, it is. And in the next couple slides, we'll talk about why. I mean, it's you know, literally, and it's frustrating for me, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But like I said, I literally get calls from buyers all over the country.
Hmm.
Um, and I think this is my buddy John texting me right now. So, um, he's in Sacramento. He wants to get into apartment buildings, and he's trying to find people that are good deals in 20 to 50 units, and there's nobody identifying these things. So if anybody wants to buy a 20 or 50 unit, they've got to slog through the list of apartment buyers or the apartment owners themselves, and identify these deals and talk to these people, and nobody really wants to do all the work. And
Right.
so there's nobody doing this, I don't want to say nobody doing it anywhere, but there's hardly anybody doing this in any market.
Right.
So is it possible? Yes. And it's really just becoming a deal finder, and finding ways to uncover these deals out there. And really what we're talking about is talking about finding people that are really tired of, they're at the end of their ownership of these buildings, right? They maybe have run out of depreciation. That's a huge, and I'll tell you the secret about that in a little bit, about how you identify these people. Maybe they've run out of depreciation on their building. Maybe they're just old and they've done it for too long. And maybe they're just tired of managing it. Maybe their vacancies are a little high or whatever. Whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. The fact is that these people want to sell, but they haven't listed their buildings yet in a lot of cases. And so we need to find them, talk to them, offer them a way out, offer to basically to solve the problem. And by doing that, we make a 5-figure check. And so the dollar amounts, Antonio, obviously depend on the market. So if you're going to sell, if you're going to deal, my buddy Andrew for a 4 unit with 200 grand, that's the outlier. His results are not typical. You're generally not going to find, a $200,000 payout on this. But this guy was just a really, really ancient guy,
Hmm.
didn't care, really just wanted to sell it, had no family, and just wanted to get rid of it. And basically, I think that was the 125 that he asked for. It was all the guy paid for it, 40 years ago or something like that. So he didn't
Wow.
really care. He had no heirs or whatever. Didn't want a big capital gain for his estate, right? So he just sells for what he bought for, and it's a clean sale. He washes his hands, and he can go just on with his life. Didn't need the money or anything like that. So that's atypical. That's not what we're generally gonna find on for buildings. But for a 10 unit, you're not going to make 100 grand on a 10 unit. On a 10 unit, you're probably going to make, I don't know, $10,000 to $15,000 maybe,
Hmm.
something like that. 6 to 12% generally is what you're going to make. 6 to 12% of the kind of the market value is what you can make. But you shouldn't limit it to that because you never know, right? And so it's all negotiation. As you get better doing this and you get better knowledge of the market that you're in,
Hmm.
you're going to understand and have be able to sharpen your pencil a little bit more, and you're going to be a better negotiator. And
Mm.
so success breeds success in this. So you do your first one, it's going to be a little difficult. You're not going to know the process. You're going to go, I could have made another 5 grand on this, but so what? So you made 20 instead of 25. Darn good for a first check, right? Next time you'll know you can negotiate this way, find a buyer this way, talk this, do this strategy, and make 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, $10,000 more. So yes, it's absolutely possible to do this, and people all over the country doing this right now. So not enough of them actually, and that's one of the reasons why I'm teaching to other people. So
Right.
so the third big idea, and this is really important, Antonio, and I know you know this, and now that and because I'm a real estate investor, it took me a long time to get this into my head, and this is going to really change lives when people get this, and I mean really understand it. And I got to tell you, I don't have a crystal ball, but if you were to ask me to predict the future, I'd tell you that the shakeup that's been happening in the economy in the last couple of years, it's not only going to continue, but that it's going to accelerate.
Right.
And here's why. In the old economy, we used to, and what I did is that I'd go get a job at a company, and then basically I would trade my labor and my knowledge and my skill for money, right? That's the
Hmm.
contract. And then the company would then serve the customer, whatever you're doing. Well, that's called the middleman model, right? Because there's somebody between me, the worker, or you, the worker, or the guys listening, the worker, and the end customer. And so I'm a middleman in my job, right? And so that's why it's called the middleman model. And so what's been happening, if you look at the last 50 years of the economy, what's been happening every time we have a major shift is that
Hmm.
the middleman gets squeezed more and more and more. That's why middle managers are gone. Middle this are gone, and middlemen are getting squeezed out. Every time things change, the middleman is getting squeezed out, and that's what's accelerating. And so that means anybody, I mean me, you, Antonio, anybody on the webinar right now, if you've got a job, you are at risk. And because the new economy is creating cash flow for yourself, because there is no guarantee with a job anymore. And I hate to be the doom and gloom guy,
Hmm.
but I was working on doing some projects. I'm an IT. I do some IT consulting on the side as I'm doing stuff. And I've had my last project. I had 30 guys, 30 people working for me on the last project I worked on a
Hmm.
couple of years ago. 29 of them were in India, and one of them was here. There's just
Wow.
the jobs are not are I don't want to be the doom and gloom guy, but I want to make use this as a learning experience for people to say that you've got to create your own cash flow, okay? And it's critical to do that. And that was what was the game changer for me. It's when I realized that the light went on and I really got it, and it changed my life forever, and I haven't looked back. And that's really the most important thing I want to drive home with the webinar, because here's the thing: at the end of the webinar, I'm going to tell you about the apartment flipping quick cash program, and I've got some special bonuses for everybody. Um, you guys on the webinar, you're going to have a chance to change your own life forever. And to be honest, be your wife's hero, or your husband's hero by deciding today that today's the day you're going to finally commit yourself to developing your own cash flow. And really, to be honest, do what some of us are doing and kick this new economy in the teeth by taking control and
Mm-hmm.
making things happen for yourself. Okay. And what I want to do is I want to tell you about a couple of guys that are doing just that in a couple minutes. My buddy Andrew, another guy. But let's first, Antonio, go to the next slide and let me go over the agenda. We've already covered a lot of it. Let's go over the agenda really quick and what we're going to cover. Um, we've already talked about why apartment buildings and why now. I talked about my story and the reason why I got started and how I really didn't have any other options. And so we're going to go into case studies next, and then I want to talk about go into detail on the four myths. There are four really monster myths about apartment investing, and I want to bust them and blow them out of the water because every time I talk to somebody about buying or flipping apartment buildings, I get these four myths. Well, there's this, it's this, and I can't do it because this, and it's limits people, and it's really self-limiting, and I want to bust them out of the water. I want to show you an apartment flip example. I want to talk about the 8 keys to flipping apartment buildings, and then talk about the lessons learned to keep in mind as you're getting started. And then we'll get into the details of the program last, and go into what's included in that. Okay? So let's move on a couple slides here.
Okay.
Um, we've already covered why apartment buildings. Let's go ahead and pass that. Keep going. And why now? Let okay, go yeah, keep going. Keep going. Let's get all these on here. And one more right there. Let's I just want to reiterate on this. Apartment buildings are obvious. Everybody knows why apartment buildings are a great deal. They throw off a ton of money. They're really stable. The prices are at generational lows. And as we talked about, great deals are hiding in plain sight because there are guys right now, if you're driving to work right now, you probably passed 10 apartment buildings on your way to work. I'll bet you could call the owners of those 10 apartment buildings and find one of them that wants to sell tomorrow, but it's not listed, and you could do a flip deal with his apartment building. There are so many people that want to sell right now. They're just tired of having them on the market because they don't know what the values are. It's a pain in the butt to show apartment buildings, whatever. And technology here has really changed everything because, Antonio, well, I haven't done it yet, but this year I will do one of these flip deals from my desk completely and never go out to see it. That's my goal. I want to do my first one where I never actually go out to see the building. I haven't done it yet because I'm a geek for this stuff. I like to go out and kick the tires in these buildings and look at the boilers and stuff. But I want to do one just to show that it can be done. And so that's my goal for this year is to flip one without ever having to go visit it. So my technology's changed everything. You can do analysis from your desktop. Back when I started doing this, I was dealing with guys that had their listings in file cabinets on paper. They didn't have email. They were only by fax. And a lot of them didn't even have cell phones. And now technology, I mean, you can get pictures on LoopNet. You can get pictures on Facebook. You can get pictures of these apartment buildings, 77 pictures of the inside of an apartment building anywhere you want.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do everything, you don't have to be in the same area as the apartment building anymore and still do these kinds of things. So technology has really changed this market huge. And I tell you, these commercial property people, they were the last ones that wanted to make a change. They dug their heels in and they didn't want to get email, they didn't want to get cell phones, but they finally did, and it's making it easier for all of us. And
It,
the fourth thing, like we talked about before, is that nobody's doing this. Like I said, I get calls all the time from people all over the country. I mean,
mm,
Sacramento. I got a call from a guy in Atlanta the other day, a buddy of mine in Dallas. He's saying, Dennis, we got cash. We want to buy apartment buildings. There's nothing on the market. Do you know of any deals that we can buy? They didn't care where they were. They just had to be 20 to 50 units and reasonably good shape and reasonably full. I mean, they've lowered the bar so much on these things because there's just nothing on the market right now.
mm-hmm.
And so the market is wide open no matter where you are. Now, I got to be honest, for those of you in California, I know my buddy John's in Sacramento, and that's kind of a different area. Sacramento's a really cool area. But another buddy of mine was in Southern California. He emailed me about this, and there's not a lot for you in Southern California because everybody bets on appreciation down there, and that's probably the only area of the country, maybe other than Manhattan or some student housing markets that apartment flipping probably isn't going to work really well in. So you may need to find some other area.
Mm-hmm.
But in any kind of regular suburban area, there's really nobody doing this anywhere because most investors are afraid.
Wow.
We've grown up over the last 6, 7, 8 years, Antonio, And all we've heard is apartments are big and apartments are scary. There's extra zeros on the end. They're really complex. We've got had that beaten into our heads brutally, for years, and people and investors have really believed it. So this is a secret I'm sharing with just you folks on the line here on the webinar. They're not scary, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go forward. Let's let everybody that's not on the webinar right now think they're scary as hell, right? Let them keep thinking
Right.
that, because they're not going to then flip them, and we'll make all the money. I mean, I'm sure there's people from a bunch of different markets on the line right now, and so you could be the king of your own market doing this. Because everybody's afraid, and what I want to do is when we get to the myths, I want to bust all the fear and make sure that you realize that there's nothing to be afraid of for apartment buildings. And basically, if somebody like me that knew nothing about this before, and I was desperate and I had to do something, I did this, and I bought my first building in 87 days flat because I just couldn't screw around. Um, and if I can do it and know nothing about it, that you guys can flip apartment buildings very easily.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Okay. We've talked about my story already. Keep
Hmm.
going.
Case study.
All right. Yeah. You know what? I do want to make one more point about my story. And uh, really, I wanted to emphasize that, when we talked about it, my background is really no better or worse than anybody else's. But what separated me, honestly, and to be blunt, from most other people not on this webinar is that my entire focus for ever since I got married has been to ruthlessly and very ruthlessly take care of my family. And to do that in the environment of extreme, job insecurity that we've had over the last 8 or 9 years has required me to really take control of what happens. And that's to make things happen instead of letting things happen to me. You know what I mean, Antonio? I mean, you're the same way. You're a guy that makes things happen.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and so I figured out, because I was a job guy, I figured out pretty quickly that I couldn't do that at all at my job. I had no control whatsoever when they started to cut heads at my company, and I was really at the mercy of some these whacked out vice presidents. But so what I did is I found somewhere else that I could control it, and that was real estate investing. And to be honest, I think that because all of you on the webinar here tonight, spending your valuable time with me on this webinar, I think that you were cut from exactly the same cloth, and that you want to take charge and that you want to make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Because there's still a lot of uncertainty out there, and because really, quite frankly, your family, Antonio's family, my family, all our families deserve it. They really do. So
Absolutely.
I applaud you guys for it. I encourage you to nurture that drive and to feed it, and most importantly, to act on it, whether it's in this program or whatever program you guys buy, but act on it. Don't let that feeling die. Okay. And I'll tell you this for my own life. There is no better feeling in the entire world that when your wife tells you that you are her hero. I never ever thought that I'd ever hear that from my wife. But after I'd done some of these and bought this building, it kind of really saved us when really we were looking to crash and burn when the automotive industry crashed and burned. She told me that, and it blew my mind. And you know what it did? It made me damn sure that I was going to do everything I could to keep it that way. you know, because I really liked being on that pedestal. And I'm telling you, I'll be blunt for all you guys on this call, that if you act on this drive and take care of your family and take care of your wife, I guarantee you that you're going to hear the same thing from your wife, because that's the way that women are built. Honestly, I don't mean to be sexist, but that's the way they're
Right.
built. No, I'm serious. It's
Right.
fact of life. I mean, they're the. So, all right, listen, that's my story, and other people have been succeeding at this as well. So let me tell you about two of my students that have really taken this and run with it. If you want to go to the next slide, this is my buddy Andrew. This is Mr. $200,000 assignment fee. Let me just read you the middle paragraph of this. In the 2 years that I've been working with Dennis Fassett and using his information, I built a portfolio of 7 single-family houses and a 29-unit apartment complex. Not bad for a 28-year-old kid. Well, this was 2 years ago, so he's been working with me for now 4 years. And what he did was, started with houses, which didn't have to, but we all were afraid when we got started. Gone up to bought a bunch of houses. Now he's bought his apartment building. Now he's got a second apartment building, and now he's got this flip that he doesn't know what to do with it. What a great problem to have. Gosh, should I take a $200,000 check, or should I take a $6,000 a month cash flow check every month? Dennis, what should I do? It's like, man, I wish I was in your shoes. It's a good problem to have, isn't it? But again, he's a 28-year-old kid, Antonio. He started when he was 26 doing this. No money, no credit, you know, and I mean, do you remember what you were doing when you were 26? I mean, I remember I was chasing girls, drinking beer, doing all kinds of. I wasn't buying apartment buildings. I just really give these guys all the credit. 20-year-old kid really, had the presence of mind to figure out how to do it without any money, without any experience, without any credit or anything like that. And I know Andrew in particular was in a ton of debt as well. So he didn't have just no credit. He had a bunch of debt as well with no cash flow. So he had to figure out a way to do this on a shoestring. And he's just gone blowing the doors off of it. So that's
Wow.
that's number one. Let's talk about the second guy, my buddy Jesse. These are guys in my local market here. Jesse, let's read the second paragraph here. I was surprised to discover that buying an apartment building is really not rocket science and can be broken down to a step-by-step process. Several months after attending Dennis' seminar, I was proud owner of my first building at 22 years old.
Wow.
Jesse used to own a landscaping company. He started when he was in his teens, cutting lawns, in high school. It grew until he had, a crew of guys and a couple hundred lawns he was cutting. Well, Jesse, you know, took my training and again, not, just and took control and started doing it and bought a bunch of houses, bought an apartment building. I think he's working on a second apartment building right now, and now he's flipping apartment buildings as well for $30,000 to $40,000 a pop. And I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, sold his lawn service company. Now, I think he's 24 years old now, right now, Antonio. He's retired. All he does is do real estate now. This guy, I think he's got his first baby on the way, newly married, cute wife, Dana. I mean, now at 24 years old, the guy's never gonna have to work another day in his life. He just drives around looking at houses, kicking the tires of these apartment flips that he's doing. It's unbelievable at 24 years old. So I picked these two guys because these two guys I'm really really proud of, and really I want to emphasize that if you know 22-year-old can do this, if a 28-year-old can do this, anybody can really do this because these guys, talk about no money, no credit, no experience. I mean, you can't get any more green than guys in their 20s, right? I mean, these guys they shouldn't know anything yet because they should be out chasing girls and drinking beer like we were when we were that age, right? But both of them decided that they were going to take control. They were going to kick the new economy in the teeth and generate their own cash flow. And they've done that. They've done it incredibly well. And now Andrew now is having these issues with the $200,000 checks versus the $6,000 monthly check. So good problems to have. So these two are really good examples of what you can accomplish because really I want to emphasize that if 20-year-old kids can do this, then anybody can do this. It really doesn't take a lot of brains. It really just takes some time and effort and some focus. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to talking about some myths then. Let's bust these myths. Okay, apartment investing myth number one is that you have to start investing in houses first. If I had a nickel for every time I heard this, man, I'd be a rich guy right now. And the problem, Antonio, is that I bought into this when I first got started. I was scared to death of apartment buildings when I got started. And so, um, the scary stories about, oh, there's extra zeros involved. They're really expensive. They're complicated and all that kind of stuff. And I was scared of this. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do houses first. And come to find out after I bought my first one is that the process is almost exactly the same of buying a house versus buying an apartment building. It
Hmm.
takes a little bit longer to buy an apartment building. And there's a half an extra step when you doing the math. But it's basically the same process. And the thing about managing houses, rental houses, and managing apartment buildings, they're totally different. So, managing a rental house really doesn't teach you anything about managing an apartment building because the tenants are different. So,
Right.
you don't have to start with houses first. And, this is one of these forehead slappers. I wish instead of buying 12 rental houses before I bought my first apartment building, I wish I would have bought the 20 apartment building first and forgot about the houses and just made the 4 grand, almost 4 grand in cash flow right off the bat and just kind of sat back and really enjoyed it instead of having these 12 houses I was chasing down for rent every month. You know what I mean? So the thing is, I want to emphasize is that you do not have to start investing in houses first. Whether you're doing flips, whether you're buying and holding, or whether you're doing wholesaling or whatever, you do not have to start investing in houses first. Apartment buildings are not that much more complicated.
Right. So let me
So
ask you this,
yeah,
so
yeah,
everybody will know you are a
yeah.
cash buyer and you are specifically looking for apartment buildings right
Oh yeah, and this is the crazy thing, Antonio, and
now.
I'm going to talk about this in a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah, I love the cash that you make when you flip apartment buildings. I really do. But I'm a cash flow geek. But when I find a great building, and I think, geez, I can make a 30 grand check with this now, or geez, I can make a buddy of mine, like the story, a buddy of mine, Gene, called me. He goes, I got this building. I can make a 30. I think he was talking about a 30 grand assignment fee on this, or I can keep it and make a 4 grand a month cash flow check. What should I do? Well, you think about it. He can take a quick 30 grand, which is great. Or if he holds it for a year, he's going to make 48 grand. So, long answer to your question, it's like, yeah, I love to flip apartment buildings, but when I look at the cash flow, man, it's hard to sell some of these things. Once you see some of these buildings and the cash flow they throw off, it is really difficult to sell them to somebody else because you get greedy. You say, no, I want to keep. I'd rather, this Gene deal. Gene was going to make an extra $18,000. He held it for a year. He would have made $18,000 more than if you just would have sold it and flipped it, right?
Right, right.
In the first year, right? So you get to these situations where, and that's what I get, and I laugh when my students do this because they come back and I get these questions all the time, and they say, well, I really like this one. I don't want to flip it. I said, fine, so keep it. And they said, well, I never really expected to ever be an apartment owner ever in my life. It's like, well, welcome to the club now. Now you see why it's so cool, right? So anyway, so yeah, so you don't have to invest. I am a cash buyer right now. I am looking for buildings right now. I love the flipping income I do, but I tell you, when you it's mesmerizing and it's intoxicating when you buy an apartment building and I got one that is run by totally managed by a property manager. All I get is a check every month. I don't do anything, and I just get this check keeps coming every month, and it's like this is really cool. So all I got to do is buy this thing, and then I'm buying a stream of cash flow. That's all I do, and it's so yeah. So I'm actively looking right now, and I'm always in the market for buying houses and apartment buildings
All right.
because you can never have too much cash flow.
Gotcha, gotcha. So you
Yeah.
everybody hear that, Dennis Fassett is he's a buyer. He's looking for apartment buildings. So you have a buyer right here. So I'm sure you can probably go over more like numbers or to break down more into this presentation so they can
Yeah,
see.
yeah. We'll talk about a sample deal here in a little bit. So,
Okay,
yep.
great, great.
Okay, let's start myth number two. Again, myth number two, and this is the crazy thing that you need your own money to flip apartment buildings. I'm telling you, you don't. You don't need your own money, and actually, you don't need any money to flip apartment buildings because, as we talked about before, the way the process works, your cash buyer is good. Let me kind of set expectations properly here. When you flip apartment buildings, there is an earnest money deposit that's going to need to be paid. Somebody's going to need to pay it. Generally, in the apartment sizes that we're talking about, in the 15 to 20 to 40 unit range, it's roughly going to be 5 grand. So it's not the end of the world. Somebody's going to need to pay roughly a 5 grand earnest money deposit. The way the process works, I always have the cash buyer just write the check to the title company to cover the earnest money deposit because I get a cash buyer that fast. So 9.5 times out of 10, you're not going to have to put any money into these deals at all and still be able to make these monster checks. And that's what's really cool about it. Now, you do need your own, well, you do need to bring money to the table when you buy an apartment building generally. It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be your own money, but you do need to bring some money to the table. And we can talk about that some more when we get we talk about that later on if we want to.
Gotcha.
So let's talk about myth number three. Flipping apartment buildings is complicated and hard and complicated. It is not either one, and I want to emphasize this again. Is it if you know how to analyze a rental house, you know about 95% of what you need to know to analyze an apartment building. They are that similar. The process to if you want to do a wholesale deal for a house, it's 95% the same as doing a flip deal for an apartment building. There's a little extra step. There's one extra step for the math, and that is it. It's exactly the same process. It is not hard. It is not complicated. And you can see with these 20-year-old kids doing this stuff who don't know anything, no experience or whatever, and they can figure it out. Anybody can do this. And so don't let people tell you that it's hard and complicated. Don't let people tell you that you can't do this because it's just not the case. All right, let's look at the fourth myth, and this is the one that drives me crazy, and from personal experience as well, is you have to spend thousands of dollars on training.
Hmm.
Um, I spent just to bare my soul here. When I was getting started looking for my first apartment building, I thought that that my knowledge gap, the stuff I didn't know, I thought there was a huge gap in what I didn't know, and I'm happy to pay for education. I spent a lot of money on a master's degree program, so I know that education is expensive. So I went to every seminar I could go to. I went every home study course. I did coaching, I did mentoring, I did, what else? Coaching groups, everything you could imagine. I spent over $60,000 in training for all these types of things, learning apartment buildings. And when I got to the end of all that and I bought my first building, I realized that all that stuff was basically all exactly the same. And I knew before I even spent $1 of that 60,000, I already knew enough to buy an apartment building before I spent $1 of that $60,000, because it is just not that complicated. I think people like to make it complicated because it's lucrative to make it complicated. Antonio. I mean, when people spend when when you see the $10,000 seminars and stuff like that, people are
Hmm.
just trying to make money off of folks that don't know any better, and that's to me
Right.
that's a crime, because the cash flow from flipping apartment buildings or owning apartment buildings it's within arm's reach of most people. And the problem is that they've got their heads filled with all this false information, and it really inhibits them from acting and taking advantage of it. And that's what's a crime from my book, and that's really disappointing. So, really, again, the myth number 4 is you have to spend thousands on training. It is not true. Don't believe that, and you're not going to have to spend thousands on training here either, because I don't charge that much either. Because I could not, to be honest with you, Antonio, I'd love to charge 5 grand or 6 grand or 10 grand for my training, but I couldn't keep a straight face. I could not. I could not. I
Hmm.
couldn't do it without laughing.
Right.
Because I know that when it's all said and done, it's very simple and very uncomplicated. Anybody can do this. So,
Absolutely.
all right, let's move on and let's talk about briefly an apartment deal flip. Okay, this is a building in my local area. A little. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay.
Let's go. One, keep going, keep going. One more. Right there. Let's look at all the information here. 10-unit building in my area, and here's a tip to you guys listening on the webinar. Um, there are there's a difference between having trophy properties and having bread and butter properties. Trophy properties are the ones people drive by and go, "That's a really cool property." And what happens with trophy properties is that everybody wants to own them. And so what does that do to the price? It jacks the prices way up. I like to deal with these kinds of properties right here. Bread and butter, brick, nondescript, in the suburbs. You could drive by this building 10 times and never even notice it. It's
Right.
that it's that boring. But if you look at it, it's a brick building. The roof is within 5 years old. All the windows have been replaced. When you look at this building a little closer, you go, "This is a freaking really cool building." 10-unit apartment building. Its occupancy history is 90% occupied, and you can tell why. It's just been really nicely taken care of. And again, it's not beautiful, it's not great, but it's a bread and butter property. Needed zero rehab at closing. I think the one unit needed to have the carpet cleaned and some paint touched up. Didn't even need to be painted completely. Just the paint needed to be touched up in the one unit. Okay. It was put under contract for 173.5 and sold to an end buyer, a cash buyer, for 195,750. So this one earned an assignment fee of 22,250 bucks at closing for
That's a,
like 8 hours worth of work. I
ah,
mean, nothing at all. I mean, how many times could you do something like that? I mean, to all of you guys in the webinar, it's that simple to do this kinds of things.
right.
Okay, this was a retiring owner. He'd owned the building for 50 years. It was time for him to retire. And the thing that happened. Let me kind of back up and tell you a little bit about the apartment story here. Is that what happened? Is that in '07, '08, '09, apartment sellers started to finally realize that their prices were going down, and so they got really disappointed, and a bunch of them took their buildings off the market because there were a bunch of buildings on the market for sale because prices were really high before, and then when prices started to tank and people realized that prices tanked, they took all the buildings off the market. So you had all these older guys, retired guys, that wanted to sell their buildings in '07, '08, '09, that took them off the market. Well, now we're in 12, 13. These guys still own these buildings 4 years later, 5 years later, so they're 4 to 5 years past where they wanted to sell. These guys really want to sell. A lot of them haven't kept up with the market. It's and if you've never owned an apartment building, it is a pain in the butt to put an apartment building on the market to show it to people because it messes up your tenants. The tenants get scared. They like to move, and so it's a pain in the butt to put an apartment building on the market. So these guys don't want to deal with it. So you've got guys that have been wanting to sell for 5, 6, 7 years, still holding, waiting for you to call them up or send them a letter or somehow run into them and say, "Hey, mister, would you like to sell your apartment building?" They're going to jump on your lap and say, "Yeah, what can you give me for it?" So, and that's what this was. This guy is like, "I don't really care. Just I want to get out of it." And this was an awesome fee. And so what happened is that the The buyer ended up having another 20 grand in equity. The market value of this building was something in the area, I don't remember, 210 or whatever, 215 or whatever. So the assignment fee was 22 grand, and the buyer got 20 grand in equity as well below market price. So this was like a $42,000 spread in this building because
Mm,
the seller just wanted to get rid of it. He was out of depreciation. He was a 72-year-old guy, and
mm,
just was, I'm done. I don't want to go collect the rent anymore. He was old school guy. I don't believe in property managers, kind of old gravelly old school guy, that type of thing. He just wanted to get out from under it. So, and those are the kind of guys you want to look at. And all these guys, all these smart old geezers, they all own in these really bread and butter areas. They're the guys to talk to. So that's in I don't want to oversimplify it, Antonio, but
mm-hmm.
that's really all that's involved here. I mean, I'm not oversimplifying it. It's really that simple to get these things done. It's finding a buyer, opening a dialogue with them, getting some questions answered, making them an offer, and then finding a cash buyer. It's really that simple. And I'm embarrassed that it's that easy, but I'm telling you, it's the easiest 20 grand you're ever going to make. I'm telling you.
Right.
You know.
Now 20 grand in
Yeah.
the residential area, that's actual home run, but a 20 grand and $22,000 in apartment or commercial, that's like average, right? Or like that's
This is low actually.
that's
So
that's low, right? That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
this is disappointing. This is disappointing because it's a 10 unit. Because
Right.
but again, and that's why I don't generally operate in a 10 unit space because and it's funny. This is just I'm laughing at myself. I'm complaining about a $22,000 payday because it's too low, right? And so you know, you know, but again, I'm not to make fun of it, but that's why I like to be in the 20 unit and above because once you get in 20 units above, then you get into 30 grand and 35 and 40 grand paydays and stuff, and it's just so, but it takes the same amount of time. So I find if I focus on a little bit bigger building, I can make another 10 to 20 grand on them and spend the same amount of time. So if I can make 40 with the same amount of time I'm making 20, why don't I make 40 all the time, right?
Mm-hmm, hmm.
you know. So I just happened to happened upon this one, and it was just a kind of a fluke, and so I did it. And again, I'm happy to get the 20 grand check, obviously,
Right.
but I generally focus on 20 and above because of that.
I'm sure everybody just listened to this webinar and just be happy with a $22,000 check,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
I know, again, I don't mean to say that I'm so out of touch that 20 grand doesn't. I mean, my kids go to I go to some of my kids to Catholic high school, and they're
Uh-huh.
the bill for them too, and my other two kids, my Catholic school bill this year was 30 grand, and so this helps a lot, believe me.
Right.
So,
Oh man, I
um,
believe it. Again,
but
guys, this $22,000 check is a wholesale deal using no money and no credit. Okay, so keep that
yeah,
in mind. He was,
no money at all, no money at all. The buyer paid the earnest money deposit. I
wow.
mean, so it was like my wife's like, I cannot believe you did that. I said, I know, but it works, and I'm gonna keep doing it until it doesn't work anymore, right? You
Hmm.
know? Okay.
Yeah. Now, one more question.
Yeah.
How did you find this seller for this 10 unit apartment building?
Direct mail.
Wow.
Direct mail. And that's one of the things I cover in the course. I'm not gonna cover a lot in here because it's just it's a pretty standard strategy. But in the program, in the apartment flipping quick cash program, I talk about it in detail. I include my letters and my follow up and the schedule and everything like that.
Hmm.
And it's really, and there's a secret weapon in there that I'm not going to disclose tonight because you got to go into the program to do that. But there's a twist to doing direct mail that I found that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, it
Absolutely.
literally it separates me from everybody else. So,
Awesome. Awesome.
and that's what got me this deal. There was nobody else talking to this guy but me. So anyway, so every time I share this game changer concept with folks, the reaction's always the same, and I get, so great, Dennis. How do people use apartment flipping to generate their own cash flow? How did they get started, and how do they make all that crazy money? Well, let me kind of preface this by telling you guys that I tell you straight out that we don't have enough time to do a deep dive on how to flip apartment buildings here today. Like most things, it's not all that complicated, but there are a few things to learn. So instead of a deep dive, what I'm going to do here in the next few slides is give you a foundation to build on and teach you the 8 key things that you need to know to start flipping apartment buildings starting today. And I'm also going to briefly touch on the most significant lessons learned that I've picked over the last several years from my own experience and those of my students. Um, Now, I would really like to take you on a deeper dive in this material than I can do today, and I think that'd be it'd be a game changer and a life changer for you as well, just like it's been for me. So I encourage you to enroll in the apartment flipping quick cash program when we're done and get started on the right path. I really encourage you to do that because it really is a game changer. Um, and,
Absolutely.
and a big warning too, like I mentioned before, Antonio, is like I have never made this flipping program available before as a standalone product ever, and it's never been offered on a webinar before ever. This is really a test, and
Mhm.
as you know, it's a favor to you, and you doing a favor for me by doing this. So I'm planning on closing this down in 48 hours,
Oh,
and I don't have a plan to open this up anytime soon because again, you and I are just testing this out. This is a brand new thing. Let's see how it goes, and there's another reason why I got to close down in 48 hours as well. Is one of the involves one of the bonuses I'm throwing in. It's going to limit my time and effort because I'm throwing in some of my own time as well. Uh, so basically, you've got the next couple of days to join me in this program and start making a difference for your family today.
absolutely. We
Um,
would appreciate that.
so
I'm sure everybody appreciate that, Dennis. Great.
yeah, yeah.
That's great.
So um, so what are the keys to flipping apart buildings? Well, I'm going to teach you and then touch on the lessons learned. And really, I want to emphasize that this is why I get to do what I do because when I was just starting out, I didn't know a damn thing about apartment buildings. I just believed in myself. And why was that? Because I knew this wasn't a new idea. I knew other people were doing this. And to be honest, Antonio, it's like every other real estate strategy or way to make money is that there's people that aren't as smart as us doing this and doing really well. So before I got started, I knew I could do this. So that's where I began. And just like you're in front of a computer right now. You got a phone in front of you. That's all I had. I had a phone and a computer. That's it. No money and no knowledge. And I remember like it was yesterday. And I had this meeting with my boss at my automotive company, and where he was this mafia guy, or he liked to pretend he was this mafia guy, and never would sit with his back against the door, and just really this really odd guy. But I worked for this guy, and one day he came over, when I was in this heat, I was thinking of my job every day. I'm thinking of my job. I'm going to lose my job today. I'm going to be out on the street. And so I'm rushing to buy real estate and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden he comes over to me one day and said, Dennis, let's go for a ride. It's like, you got to be freaking kidding me. I felt like it was like in the Godfather movie where the guy ends up getting shot in the back seat with the cannolis and stuff. And so we go for coffee, and he asked me a bunch of questions, and I didn't lose my job. But when had I talked to him when I gave him my notice when I was leaving that company, I asked him. I said, listen, we went for coffee that one day. Remember that? And he goes, yeah. I said, were you going to fire me that day? He goes, yeah, you were going to get laid off that day, but you impressed me. You knew what you were doing, so I didn't lay you off that day. So again, it's that kind of stuff, the greater and greater risk that we're all facing right now, and it's not over. And that's why you got to take control of what you're doing, because if you have a job, somebody else controls your paycheck. Okay.
Right.
So it's really important to develop your own cash flow and not rely on somebody else. So now my wife calls me a hero, which is great. And yeah, and you can't imagine the life that will open up for you once you do this. So let's move on. We've got the first one up here. Let's talk about the 8 keys to success. Let's back up one, Antonio. We got to
Okay.
talk about the first one. Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about the first one. So as promised, I want to share with you the 8 keys to success to apartment investing and flipping. Okay. The first one, very simple. It's set up your business properly as you're getting started. Um, in any business, and this is just a business fundamental, and I'm surprised, and I include this in here because so many people don't do this. You need to incorporate, whether it's an Inc. or an LLC or whatever, you need to organize your business and get it out of your own name. You need to get a tax ID number and to be able to have your expenses be tax deductible. You need to do this ahead of time because right now the IRS is cracking down on people with businesses and then specifically people with real estate businesses. So all you got to do is a couple of these simple things to set up your business properly when you're getting started, and you'll be fine. Now, the second thing is when you play. No, keep back up, back up. We're still on the first one. Sorry
Oh,
about
oh,
that.
okay.
The second part of this is when you jump up to the commercial game, you're dealing with a people with a one level up in terms of sophistication, in terms of experience, and in terms of expectations. So you really don't want to use your goofy Vista print business cards that you've got all kinds of funny slogans that we buy houses on them when you're doing this. Okay, you don't want to take those in. You don't want to have an eFax number that doesn't work half the time. These people, they eat $1 million deals for breakfast every day. They are the cream of the crop. When you deal with commercial real estate, you're going to be dealing with people with a level of sophistication beyond what you're experienced with. So you need to do a couple key things to raise your game a little bit and to fit in, and that is buy real business cards. It's really simple and it's really stupid, but pay the $50 and go to the office supply store in your town and buy real business cards. Simple, straightforward, white business cards with not a lot of junk on it or your picture. You need to get a real fax machine or something better than eFax that actually works. And you need to get a regular email address, Gmail or something simple like I see yours, Antonio. Very simple. I see so many people, and I get, you know, especially I don't know if it's just ladies, but you know, I, this one lady had, I don't forget her email was something like I love Johnny at gmail.com, and that was her business email address. You're not gonna talk to an apartment broker or an apartment lender with I love Johnny at gmail.com. You're not going to get a lot of respect or a lot of credibility that way. So it sounds really stupid, Antonio, I know, but these people are really, they get bugged all the time by newbies and people that don't know what they're doing, and they screen people out for the stupidest stuff like this. So take the time to do a couple key things like this to set up your business properly, and then you'll be in the club. Okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go to number two. Assess your resources. This is a big one. Whether you're buying or flipping, whatever, you need to assess your resources. But in this case, we're talking about your time. That's what's going to be important for this. Normally, if you're going to be buying apartment buildings, it's time and money. But we're not going to be buying. We're talking about flipping, so it's time. And the reason why you need to assess your resources is because apartment flipping is really an investment of time more than anything else. It's important that you block out the time and treat it like a business every week. So whatever your time is, whatever you've got available, if you've got a job or you've got two jobs, you've got kids or whatever, you need to block out the time every week, the same times every week to do your business. A couple hours during the week, maybe in the evenings, maybe a couple lunch hours, maybe on the weekends or whatever. It's not going to take that much time, but you need to make sure you put that time in to make progress every single week. I know when I was, doing this hot and heavy, at one point, my son had basketball practice on Friday night and my daughter had volleyball practice on Wednesday night. So those nights were out in terms of me doing anything in the business. Well, that's great. I knew that, so I blocked out, Monday and Thursday to do my real estate stuff, and that worked out really fine. And maybe as a backup, I would go look at properties Saturday morning or something like that. So it's important to do this, systematically, because once you get into this, stuff's going to start to happen, and you need to be able to schedule if you're going to go look at buildings, you're going to meet your cash buyers, you're going to need to have time set aside and know when your blocks of time are. I know it sounds very simplistic to do this, but think about it. We're talking about a business that you're going to make $30,000 to $50,000 checks multiple times a year. We're talking about a real business here. And so what I'm suggesting is start from scratch, set up your business properly, and set it up properly in terms of assessing your resources and blocking the time out to treat it like a business. So that's the way I've done it, and it's been wildly successful. And I know that if you do this and don't treat it as a hobby, treat it as a business, you'll have the same success. So assess your resources properly. That's number two. Let's move on to number three. Number three is build the right team to help you. Now, one of the things that I realized when I first jumped into apartment buildings is that buying apartment buildings is a team sport. You're not going to do it by yourself, and don't even try. To be honest, you'd be stupid to try and do that. You can't. There are people out there that it's their job to help you, and you need to engage them early on in the process. And those people include commercial brokers, commercial lenders, commercial appraisers, commercial property inspectors, apartment property managers. You've got commercial real estate attorneys. All of these people, they exist to help you out doing what you're doing. And let me tell you, you may not have any issues that you need to have a commercial attorney, but what happens if you're sitting at the closing table and your cash buyer gets squirrely and wants to put in some new clauses into your contract, or something happens like that, and you haven't already made arrangements to have a commercial attorney or apartment attorney, real estate attorney, on call? What are you going to do then? Your deal dies and you're out a $30,000 payday because you didn't just do a little bit of preparation. So it's important to build the team up front that's going to help you. And I tell you, the tip that I want to give you on this is
Mm-hmm.
that whatever market that you're in, you need to find the busiest and best apartment property inspector in town. Okay, if you want to be a successful apartment flipper, Whatever market you're in, I don't care if you're in Atlanta or John, you're in Sacramento or wherever you are, find the busiest guy that you can find that does apartment inspections, and generally only apartment. It doesn't have to be only apartment inspections, but does a majority of apartment inspections. And you need to take this guy out to lunch as soon as possible, because this guy's going to tell you what's what, who's who, what's where, what's popular, what's not. It's going to be like getting an MBA in apartments in your area, because this guy is going to know everything. He's going to know the good areas, the bad areas, because he's going to have seen everything everywhere. So I was shocked. I went through this list of guys. And I took a bunch of people to lunch when I got started, mostly because I just like to go to lunch, because I was bored at work, right? So I
Hmm.
took these guys to lunch, and we sat here for almost 2 hours. I sat for almost 2 hours with the apartment property inspector that I found. I didn't say a word. I said, so I'm new at this. What do we need to know? He talked for an hour and 45 minutes, didn't eat a bite of his lunch, and took it all home with him. I had a great lunch, and my head was spinning when I was done. So the one tip I want to give you is build the right team, but also key on finding an apartment property inspector in your market and take them out to lunch and ask them what you need to know. And that's it. And shut up and let him talk, and let him talk as long as he wants to talk. It'll be the best $20 or $30 you spend on lunch ever.
Now, how can someone find a property specter in our marketplace?
You know what, the best source of that is go to your local RIA meeting, your Real Estate Investor Association meeting.
Hmm.
And if you're like me, I was intimidated as hell when I went to my first RIA meeting, because all the apartment guys, they sat over in a different area. They were, what I mean. I mean, they
Yeah.
had their own little club, and it was like, now that I own them, it's like, you guys are a bunch of idiots. I mean, they just do that because, I don't know if they're shy or whatever, but go find the apartment guys sitting by themselves at your RIA meeting and ask them, who does your apartment inspections? Who's the best guy in town? Who does the most of it? Ask 4 or 5 of them, you know, and then another source that I don't really like apartment property managers that much, because I think they're a bunch of shysters mostly, but there's some good ones. But apartment uh, uh, property managers also know them as well, because you've got municipal inspections that need to happen, and they engage them for a lot of different reasons as well. But the main source is, it's free. Just go to find the RIA meeting in your area, and go to the RIA meeting, and find where all the apartment owners are hiding, and just ask them. That's the best way.
Wow.
And actually,
Awesome.
it's the best way to find your whole team. I mean, don't just ask them about the property inspector. Ask them who they use for their real estate attorney, who's the best broker in town, who has the best leads. Ask them all these questions, because they're happy to share.
Right.
Because you know, you know, apartment owners are not any different than single family house people. But they get a lot of really dumb questions from people that aren't serious. Everybody thinks that you can buy a I get calls, Antonio, all the time about guys that are looking for, I want to buy a 100-unit apartment building that's 100% occupied, that I don't have to put any money down on. And my question and my question to him is, if I knew that, why would I pass it on to you? you know,
Right.
seriously, why, the first guy, my answer to all these guys is, well, if one of those deals ever did exist, and I don't think they ever did, the first guy that heard of it would take it. Why wouldn't he? Right? If it was a free apartment building, they didn't, you get into it with no money out of your own pocket. So there's the apartment owners are used to getting questions like that from newbies, and if you go and ask them intelligent questions, and you're serious about getting started in this, they're going to take you under their wing and tell you everything, because they're happy to find people that want to join their club. They really are.
Wow. It's amazing.
Okay. Principle number 4, very important, is flipping the right areas. Now, this is really important, because depending on where you are, this is going to be different. Now, in my area, my metropolitan area, I don't ever buy and flip in the city of Detroit. I just don't. It's too difficult. It's not a market I want to be involved in. I'm just in the suburbs. Now, depending on where you are, maybe the inner city is the right area. Because what it's going to depend on is where your cash buyers want to buy. So you've heard the old story. You need to find somebody that wants to buy something and sell it to them. Well, this is kind of like a chicken and the egg thing. You need to find the right areas, but what you need to do really is find cash buyers and find out where they want to buy before you really know what the right areas are. But this is where your team comes in to help, is they're going to be able to tell you where the hot areas are, what's selling where, where the people are buying the 20 to 40 unit buildings. Your commercial broker is going to be able to tell you that, and your inspector is as well. And so that's a way to kind of get around not knowing any cash buyers yet when you're trying to find the right, quote unquote, right area to flip in your area. So So that's, and obviously it's key. I mean, if you buy in the right areas, you're gonna sell your contract within a couple of days, and you're gonna be very, very happy camper when you get your five-figure check.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to number five. Number five is you need to identify the right apartment buildings in your target area. Now, Antonio, I know you know this, but you've got apartment buildings that have pitched roofs, you got flat roofs, you got brick, you got stucco, you got frame, you got basements, you've got gas boilers, you've got separate utilities, you've got separate water meters, you've got pools, you have clubhouses, tennis courts, you've got every different type of variation of apartment building out there. Well, what you need to figure out is what's the right building in your market? What's the building that's in highest demand? I don't know what that is. And maybe, in your area, maybe people like 20 units, 20 unit complexes that are all one bedrooms. Maybe it's 20 units with mostly two bedrooms. Maybe it's all three bedrooms. Maybe it's two-story. Maybe it's garden apartments. Maybe they have a pool. I don't know what that is in your market. I know what it is in my market. It's 20 to 30 units, single or two-story, no pool, on-site parking, no garages, some basements, and separate utilities, and pitched roof. I can do this all day long. I can sell those all day long to people that have an open checkbook. As many of them as I can find, I can sell. And so, again, your team is going to help you identify the right buildings, especially your apartment inspector, because he's going to see what's moving, because people inspect their buildings all the time when they sell them, right? Or the new buyers will inspect the building, so they're going to know what's moving and they're going to know what's popular. So I recommend that you again get in the pockets of these guys to help you figure out what the right buildings to flip in your target market are.
Absolutely. That's a
Okay.
good point.
Number six, again, seek out the best sources for apartment deals in your area. Again, every a good place to start is LoopNet. That'll give you a good overview of who's in the area, the brokers and stuff like that. You're generally not going to find, and this is kind of a fact of life, and why everybody isn't doing this, because the stuff that's listed are generally not going to be the deals you're going to be able to flip for big checks, because if they're listed, then everybody knows about them. What you need to do is find the brokers with the pocket listings, the ones that aren't listed. There are brokers all the time now that in my area in particular, I don't know how your areas are out there, but commercial real estate and apartment building brokers are different breed. Where with houses, single family houses, you cooperate, right? So if you got a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, they split the commission. In my area, apartment guys don't do that. They don't split commissions. So if I go to Joe's apartment brokerage and I talk to Joe, Joe's going to have 20 listings that nobody else knows about in the market. So I want to know Joe, okay? And I want to know Joe really well, because Joe may be able to may have a building that's priced under market that I can flip. It's not unheard of. It's unlikely that you're going to find something that's listed with a broker that's a flip candidate because they charge a commission, but it's not impossible. So they're good places to start. And plus, when you get to know these brokers, there's a lot of deals these brokers won't touch. If these buildings are, say, a 10 unit, and the broker likes to handle 20 and above because the commissions are fine, he may just throw you the 10 unit seller and say, listen, you know, Dennis or Antonio, here, take this lead. This guy wants to sell. 10 units isn't worth my time, or 5 units isn't worth my time. See what you can do. See if you can find somebody to flip it to. And you can make a cool 5, 10, 15 grand just like that. So, but it's important to seek out the best sources for apartment deals. And for my money, it's going to be direct mail. And again, I talk about that in a lot, really in a lot of detail in the apartment flipping quick cash program, because I can't really go into a lot today. But it's a proven kind of technology, and it's really a great way to find the deals that aren't listed anywhere.
And you said loopnet.com, right?
LoopNet. Yep, Loop LoopNet. LoopNet.
Okay. And that's a place where they can go to and seek out different apartment building deals or
Yeah, that's kind of
leads.
like the national MLS for apartment deals.
Hmm.
Um, it grew, it started growing really slow, but now you got, I would say in my area, probably about 70% of the deals that are available go through LoopNet, up from 20% when it started, because everybody has these pocket listings in my area, and they still like to hold on to them. And so you're not going to find all of them out there,
Hmm.
but what LoopNet will help you do is find out who all the brokers are in your market, so you can go talk to them and start building relationships with them. That's the best
Mm.
use for LoopNet. And I go into that in a lot of detail on how to do this in the program. So, but
Absolutely.
LoopNet's a great place to start. Principle 7 is do the math. there is an extra half a step when you analyze apartment flips versus wholesaling houses. When you wholesale a house, you obviously need to figure out what the ARV is, and need to figure out uh, um, what the ARV is, and then how much you want for the property. The extra step in the math for an apartment building is that you've got income and expenses. Apartment buildings are really they're an ongoing business, so you need to be aware that there's a little extra step in saying there's a income line, there's an expense line, and then there's profit. And there's a couple of terms that you need to know as well. Again, I talk about them in the course, but I define them. So the math is going to be about a half a step more complicated than it is when you wholesale a house. But what I've included in the program is you got my spreadsheet. So I give you a list of questions to ask the seller, and I give you my deal evaluation spreadsheet. So it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to ask the seller the questions, and then another 15 minutes to put the numbers in a spreadsheet. So in a half hour max, you can analyze any deal and tell within a half hour whether or not it's a flip candidate or not. It's pretty straightforward. So I don't want you to be scared of the math. I just want you to make sure that you understand you're going to have to do some math, and then I got you covered with it because it's very simple if you break it down to its simplest form. And again, the last thing I want to do is overcomplicate this because it's just not necessary.
And guys, I seen Dennis's deal evaluator for apartment buildings. This thing is badass. I mean, it's like a plug and play. It's
Isn't
like
that cool? Yeah.
it's like therefore you just put in like how many units? 10. It's just and it calculates everything automatically for you guys.
Yep.
So guys, you really he's making it easy for you, and
Well, was yours color
it's
coded too, Antonio? Did you see the color coded one where all the yellow cells where you input in or not or no? Did you
yep,
get it
I
color
did.
coded?
I
Yeah.
did.
So
Yeah.
that's another thing too is that I do too is that all the cells that you have to actually put a number in are color coded yellow. So put something in the yellow ones, don't put stuff in the other ones, and you're good to go. So
Hmm.
I couldn't make it any more easier than that, right?
And then on top of that, you have a tutorial video that's explaining how
Yeah.
to use it. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
like one, two,
Yeah.
three.
Yeah. Pretty cool. So again, here's the key point to this for you guys on the webinar. There's something when you go into a business called a barrier to entry. Okay, it's something that keeps people out of a particular business. This myth that apartments are complicated is a barrier to entry for most real estate investors from getting into apartment buildings. This myth that the math is complicated is a barrier to entry for most investors getting into apartment buildings. I want all of you to know and understand and believe that neither of these two things should be barriers of entry for you. I want to demystify that right now and take it off the table. It is not that complicated. Okay,
All
we
right.
I've done it as much as I can to break it down to its simplest form. And to be honest, let everybody else that's not on this webinar keep thinking that it's all complicated and keep them out of the market. Let's all keep the money ourselves. That'd be fine with me. So, but I want you to understand that again, the math is not a barrier to entry for you, and neither is the complexity on these things because it really you can evaluate any deal within about 30 minutes.
Wow. All right.
All right, the last one is that I tell everybody when I do my live seminars is you got to get started. I bought my first building back in 2008, Antonio, and right at the beginning of 2008 is when I went on this tear and I spent all this money on training and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going this is 2013, so that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I counted my fingers. That's 5 years, right? 5 years ago, I
Mm-hmm.
started studying. I There are people that I took seminars with in January of 2008. It's now March of 2013. There are people that I still took seminars with in January of 2008 that I keep in touch with that are still studying apartment buildings
Wow.
5 years later. They still haven't bought an apartment building yet because they still don't think they know enough.
Mm.
These people have every program known to mankind. They know every word on every page, and in these seminars. I was shocked. They were going, Mr. Instructor, on page 297 of your manual in paragraph 7 on the third line, it says this. I don't really understand what that means. Can you clarify? And this guy's going, what the hell are you talking about? You know, the fact is, folks, you just got to get started. And I'm going to guarantee you this. Even after spending all this money, I still didn't think I knew enough. I knew I didn't know everything. You are never going to think you know everything. But right now, with this program, you're going to know enough to get started and get out there and do it.
Yep.
So my advice is just to do it. You know, put your faith in yourself, put your faith in God if you're of that mindset, and just believe that you can do this because it's not rocket science. Like my buddy Jesse said, it's not rocket science, but you got to get started. If you The first step to any goal is just getting out of the gate, and unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I mean it, you know, just taking the first step is going to separate you from 95% of the other investors out there because they never get started. They all hope and dream and stuff, but they never get started, unfortunately. So
Guys,
I really implore you.
all right. Guys, you're in the right place. You can search online, guys. It's bare minimum people that's teaching how to wholesale apartment buildings, commercial apartment buildings. And that's hard to find. And that's in what a dentist is opening up, guys, is a huge opportunity. You can go from making $2,500 on a single family house to making, like you said, a $22,000. That's a small deal in the commercial apartment building world. So,
$22, 22 grand is a disappointment. Yeah. So, so don't tell
uh,
anybody I said that, Antonio. I'll
right,
deny it. I'll
right.
deny it. So, okay, let's talk about lessons learned really quick, and then we can wrap up here. Okay. Lessons learned number one. And again, I'm hammering this for a reason. I want to be repetitive on this. Let's go to the next one. Click one more time. Lesson learned number one is it's not nearly as complicated as you think. I'm hammering this home over and over again because I want you to believe this. You know, I bought my first apartment building in 87 days after I started, you know, studying and learning about it. I didn't know anything about apartment buildings when I got started. All I had was a gun to my head, this mafia guy in the back of my head going to lay me off. I just had to get it done. I didn't screw around. I just got out there and did it and didn't know everything. And so if I can do it, a stupid corporate guy, 20 years working, doesn't know anything about real estate, doesn't know anything about anything. Didn't know anything about how to make money. I didn't know anything about anything. And I got it done in 87 days, my first buy. You can do a flip in the next 90 to 120 days. I guarantee it.
Wow.
Again, number two is believe that you can do this. Again, these self-limiting beliefs that we have about apartment buildings, I want to bust it. I want to bust it wide open and make sure we get past it. You can do this. I mean, if my buddy Jesse, 22 years old, owned his first apartment building, now he's flipping them, and my buddy Andrew, who's 20, now 29 years old, I think he's 30 actually now, is doing his first apartment. Now he's got two, I think, and now 15 houses, and now he's flipping apartment buildings. If these 20-year-olds can do it, I mean, anybody can do it. So believe that you can do this. That's the first step to succeeding. Again, build your team first. Like I said, I get calls, unfortunately, far too often of my students telling me, "Oh my gosh, Dennis, something blew up at closing. I'm sitting at the closing table and I got this question." And I tell you, the one guy, sorry, Joe, I don't know Massachusetts law. I don't know Massachusetts real estate law. You call me with a question at a closing table. I can't help you. You need to call an attorney to kind of figure it out. And they said, I don't know anybody. I didn't. That's like, so you didn't set up your team first? No, no, I didn't. He lost what, a 22 or $23,000 deal because something happened at the closing table, and stuff always happens at the closing table with commercial stuff because sellers are goofy and buyers are goofy, and so you always have these tweaks that need to kind of get resolved at the closing table. Nothing major, it just stuff happens. It just stuff always seems to happen. So you need to build your team first out of the gate because you never know when you're going to need them, and you don't want lack of preparation to be the reason why you lost a $30,000 check, right? It's just not worth it. Especially, and again, another buddy of mine, another student of mine, didn't have his assignment contract reviewed by an attorney. It would have cost him $50. I don't want to spend the $50. I said, you're going to be sorry. And of course he was. The guy walked on him and he lost some money and whatever because he didn't have his assignment contract. It wasn't, he went and got one off the internet, wasn't right for his state, and he ended up losing some money on the deal. So again, not smart. You don't want to, again, the point is you don't want lack of preparation to be the reason why you lose a $30,000 payday. That's why you build your team first.
Mm.
Number four is look for money now. Now, I need to be perfectly clear on this, okay? Again, you do not need any money, yours or anybody else's, any money at all to flip apartment buildings. None. Zero. You don't need any money. The reason why I'm putting this lesson learned in there is because I guarantee you that if you take this and take this bull by the horns and really run with it, that in 4 to 6 months you are going to find a building that you want to keep. I guarantee it. It happens to everybody. So if you really do this and and start going down the path and looking at buildings, you will find a building in the first 4 to 6 months that you will want to keep. And if you want to buy a building, you will need to have private money. You don't need to have your own money, but you will need to have private money. And so that's why I say, just for kicks, start looking for money now. You don't doesn't have anything to do with your flipping business. Start to put the line in the water, start to talk to people because I'm telling you, again, you don't want preparation, no private money to prevent you from buying an apartment building that throws off $5,000 or $6,000 a month. You do not want that to happen. So start looking for money now, not for the flipping thing, but for when you ultimately buy it. I'm telling you right now, the funniest call I get, Antonio, is from
Hmm.
these guys like my buddy Gene. I'll tell you about in a minute. I never thought I'd ever be an apartment owner. I never even considered that I'd ever buy one. It's like, well, yeah, welcome to the club now. And it's the funniest call I get because these guys, they think they're just going to be flippers their whole lives, and then they get greedy and they think, well, if I can just do this work once and then get a check forever, that's pretty cool. It's like, yeah, you know. So anyway, so look for money now, guys. You really want to do that. You really want to get that done. And then the last lessons learned that I have, again, I tell everybody this, is you've got to get in the game. And I'm telling you, every one of you guys on the call right now, I want you to get in the game tonight. Not right now, wait till we're done. But I want you to get in the game tonight. I'm going to give you some homework to do. If you're really serious about this, you need to start tonight. I mean, the best time is tonight. I want each of you on the webinar right now not to do this right now, but when we're done, I want you to go on Craigslist tonight. Go into real estate for sale and look for apartment buildings for sale. Okay. I want you to get comfortable emailing sellers, asking them for their information. Start doing that tonight in your market. Okay. And the reason is because all the deals you're going to find on Craigslist, they're going to be practice. You're never going to find a good deal on Craigslist. It's almost impossible because only fruitcakes sell their apartment buildings on Craigslist. It's really a goofy. I mean, think about it, Tony. I've seen guys selling 40, 50, 60 unit apartment buildings on Craigslist. It's just stupid, you know. But most of the guys selling on Craigslist, they're way overpriced. You know, I mean, like 50% overpriced on stuff. They think that their buildings are worth a lot more than they are. That's fine. Let them do that all day long. They make for very good practice. So you're never going to buy, almost never going to buy buildings on Craigslist, but they're great for practice. So your homework is get in the game tonight. If I'm going to challenge every one of you on this webinar right now. I want you guys to get in the game tonight. Go on Craigslist and email 2 or 3 apartment sellers asking them for their information about their buildings. If you're serious about doing this, you need to do that tonight. Get in the game tonight. And because it only gets easier. And if you practice on Craigslist, people, when you start to deal with real deals, it'll be very easy to do. Okay, so get in the game tonight. That's the fifth lesson learned, and that's really what stops people. Again, it's the same thing with getting started. It stops people from making progress because they just don't know how to get started. And now you do. Now you have specific homework of something to do tonight when we get off this webinar. Okay. All right. Now, look, we've already touched on some of this before, but success is easy in any field, and it's always basically the same, right? And I've noted since the day I've started to own my own real estate investing business, the process is the same in pretty much any field of endeavor. You set a goal, you make a plan, you get to work, you stick with it, and you reach your goal, right? It's always the same. You adjust along the way, right? I mean, come on, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Everybody is so good at making this apartment stuff complicated because it's so lucrative and profitable to make it complicated. But you know what? To be honest, Antonio, I think it's a better service to people to simplify it and to remove all the mystery. So my job is to teach all of you how to flip apartment buildings and to show you how to get started, to guide you through the process, and really to celebrate with you when you succeed. And my goal is to do all of that in a way that doesn't require you to spend a fortune on your training or make you run around in circles for a couple of years to make this whole thing seem like it's more complicated than it really is. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. My goal is to help you get this thing figured out fast because it's your time. And I really believe more than anything else that these days time is money. So I don't want
Absolutely.
you, yeah, I don't want you guys to waste any more of your time trying to figure this stuff out on your own. So let me show you how to start making quit your job income with apartment flips starting today.
And I think the bulk of people in this world has that figure out on your own mindset from the school systems we came from.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
you look on somebody's paper, then you hey, then you get a hey, you, you get punished.
Right, right.
But guys, in the real world, people, like he said, he's going to help you. He's going to show you. That's basically like cheating. Cheat. Learn from somebody who's already has the experience, like Dennis. He can, and basically, it's going to shorten your learning curve. You
Well,
know.
that's exactly right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
why not walk behind somebody that's already done it before and not repeat their mistakes because they already know the path, right?
Hmm.
So okay, let's go to the next one. The way I do this is I do this through my apartment flipping quick cash program. So what's this program all about? Well, it's 5 modules and it's deep dive online training. It's a comprehensive tactical training blueprint on how to flip apartment buildings, plain and simple. Even if you know nothing whatsoever about them, it starts from absolute scratch. And that's one of the things that all my programs do, Antonio. I don't think you and I talked about this at all, but
Hmm.
I specialize in teaching people, the first time investors, how to do stuff. First apartment building, first apartment flip, first rental house, first wholesale, that kind of thing. I like to teach the brand new people how to do stuff. So I always start from basic scratch in terms of setting up your business, building your team, and all that kind of stuff. And so I go through on this is how to flip, what to flip, where to flip, how to do your first apartment building flip in the next 90 to 120 days, and how to set up your business strategically and effectively so you generate recurring cash flow by building a pipeline of deals that'll keep feeding you cash flow over and over again. Because that's the real issue with flipping versus holding an apartment building. When you hold an apartment building, you just get cash every month no matter what. Flipping or wholesaling their houses, apartment buildings, whatever, you got to go make the money every time. Well, I want to show you how to build a pipeline of deals so it's not exactly like owning an apartment building, but it's almost as easy as getting cash flow that regularly. And there's a reason why I'm already doing this, and there's a reason why you guys are all here today on this webinar. And I got to tell you, it's bigger than both of us, than all of us. We're doing this because we want to serve our families. Our wives, our husbands, our kids, and in my case, and maybe yours, our parents. Because my dad is now living with me. Now, my mom, we moved her in a few years ago. She passed away a couple of years ago. Now my dad's living with us, and so we are honored to be able to take care of our parents.
Hmm.
You're here because deep down you guys want to make a difference in the lives of your family, and I applaud that. And I'm here because I want to be here 10 years from now, still making a difference and helping people generate their own cash flow. And the bottom line, well, the bottom line is I want you, all of you guys, to still be flipping and actually owning apartment buildings 10 years from now. So I want to completely demystify apartment buildings for you, and I want to help you to completely unlearn everything you've heard about apartment buildings being big and scary and too big and complicated to deal with. And I want to teach you how simple and straightforward it is to get out there and do your first flip. So what I did was I packaged up everything I know, everything I've done, and I put it all together in this program. I've included all the tools and techniques and all the resources that I use day in and day out in my business to help guide you along the way. And it's all available in the link down at the bottom there, firstdealeasy.com/action taker. So let's go to the next slide, Antonio. And I remember how frustrated I was when I was getting started with training materials. And I remember just pulling my hair out because I could never find what I needed. I mean, I could never find something that really was a fit. And so I took my frustration, I channeled it when I created this program to meet all of my complaints and satisfy all the ways I was frustrated when I was getting started. So first of all, this program is comprehensive. It goes into all the details, granular detail, and it tells you everything you need to know. It is so detailed. When you combine this and the apartment building program, everything like that, you're going to be blown away by how detailed it is. It is. There's nothing left out of this program at all. And the second thing, Antonio, can you click again, please?
Yes.
It's complete. There's nothing else to buy ever. There's no upsell on this. There's no downsell on this. There's no sideways sell. There's no nothing. It is comprehensive and it is 100% complete with nothing else to buy ever. Now, I will tell you, if you want help, I will coach you. I'm happy to do that, but you don't need me to do that. This is all completely straightforward and completely, doable on your own. I mean, some people like to have a helping hand, and I honor that. That's great, but it's not necessary, and I'm not going to, try to upsell you to some monster coaching program because it's not necessary. The third,
Guys, I want to just chime in. I'm sorry
yeah,
about that, bro.
no, no, go
Guys,
ahead, go ahead.
guys, I have this myself. I have 5 offers now on apartment buildings because of this flipping quick cash. Just because of this guy. So They're not accepted, but I have 5 offers right now out there.
That's awesome,
I hope,
Antonio. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So I'm out there, guys, and I have buyers. No, Dennis, I didn't realize like my cash buyers are flipping single family houses. I just asked them, say, hey, you want to buy? Are you looking to buy 20?
Yeah,
They're like, yeah. I'm like,
yeah.
damn, the whole time I should, I never.
Yeah, I know. I know. Didn't that blow your mind? I don't.
Yeah,
That's
like,
the thing. That's why the thing with starting with houses, it's like it's a forehead slapper. It's like, dang, I could have been making these 20 grand checks or 30 grand checks instead of 3 grand checks, right?
it's crazy,
So
man.
anyway, okay. The third thing is, and this is the thing that drives me absolutely nuts. This has easy to follow step by step instructions. You know, this is what I um, really needed when I was getting started, especially when I was brand new. It's like, okay, what do I do first? What do I do second? What do I do third? I didn't want to have all this conceptual theory stuff that I didn't understand, and I had to kind of figure out on my own what went where. So I've channeled everything into this course, and so in this program, so it's a step by step, easy to follow instructions. Okay. The fourth thing is that it's to the point. There's no fluffer or filler in this. That's why it's 5 modules. It's 5 complete beefy modules, and it's straight to the point. I don't fluff it up with a lot of crap that you don't need. And because I really, from experience, I realize how frustrating it was to try to get through all this stuff. I don't tell a lot of stories in this stuff. I don't, tell you my story in every module 27 times to make it longer. Any of that kind of. I just not like that. I'm a bare knuckle type A personality. I like to give, facts, man, straight to the point, and that's the way I've done this program. The fifth thing is it's written in plain English. The thing that drove me nuts about this when I got started is every single course and every single training program that I got in, it was full of jargon. I didn't know anything about apartment buildings. I didn't know what a cap rate was. I didn't know what cash on cash. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. And these people were using all this language, and they were talking like that, like it was cool to talk like that. And it's like, no, you're an idiot because you're trying to teach me this stuff, and I don't know what this is all about. So what I've done is I've written this thing in plain English, and any of the terms, and there are a bunch of terms, there are a few terms that you need to know. I've defined them all completely, so you know exactly what they mean,
Mm-hmm.
how they're used, why they're used, and if they're calculations, you know what the calculations are and how to apply them. This is completely in plain English, so I'll completely demystify all the stupid jargon that people like to use to make themselves sound like they know something you don't.
I know what you
So,
mean too, Dennis. I know what you mean.
oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure if you're going to talk to sellers, you're talking to sellers and brokers. I'm sure you're going to feel the same thing. So, and the last thing is, I got to be honest, and I know I'm biased because it's my program. This is the real deal. I mean, how many times have you bought something that promised you, that there's going to be monster riches or a lot of cash flow or whatever, and you found out that, well, it's only no money out of your own pocket if it's a sunny Tuesday or something like that. That's not like this. Honestly, this is the real deal. You can really buy or flip apartment buildings with no money in your own pocket, and you can really do it in 90 to 120 days. Antonio's on the verge of proving it. My buddy Andrew proved it, and a bunch of my students have proven it. It is absolutely the real deal, and it is quite frankly I've done a lot of different things in my life. I was a blackjack dealer in Lake Tahoe. I've been a valet parking guy. I've been an investment banker. I've done so many different. Been a manager at Taco Bell. I've been done so many different freaking things, Antonio, in my life.
Hmm.
This is the easiest money I have ever seen in my life. This is almost
Wow.
not working, and so it's as easy as it's close to getting it's how should I say this? It's close to being able to sit in your recliner and have cash rain down from the sky on you without having to do anything as you can get, basically.
I believe
Um,
it.
and so it is the real deal. So I want to tell you sincerely that this is the real deal because that was really important to me when I was getting started. There are so many things that were overpromised, underdelivered, and I don't. That's not my style. I don't do that. So those are kind of the benefits to you guys. So let me kind of go through module by module here really quickly. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but you can go to firstdealeasy.com/action taker when you want to get this. But module one is all about apartment flipping basics. Again, I start from scratch. We talk about what is apartment flipping. We talk about the difference between flipping and wholesaling houses. Bird dogging is really a bad idea, and I talk about that for the apartment space, and why bird dogging is a bad idea. I talk a lot about win-win scenarios because you need to they need to be win-win scenarios if you're going to be successful on this. And I spent some time talking about that. I walk you through the apartment flipping process. It's really very simple. It's only half a dozen steps. and I'm going to walk you through an apartment flip deal. Okay, let's talk about number two, Antonio. Let's go to the next one. Cool, thanks.
Hmm.
Module two is all about finding flip deals, and this is the beefiest of all the modules because it's got the most information in it. We're going to start with talking about geographic areas to target, whether or not it makes sense to target in your own personal area. Like I said, if you're in LA, I'm telling you, it probably doesn't. If you're in Northern California, the Bay Area, I used to live in San Carlos on the peninsula, it probably doesn't. But in Sacramento, where my buddy John is, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense up there. So geographic areas to target, neighborhoods to target based on your particular area, neighborhoods to stay away from, and there again, it may be different in every area, what to look for in a building, sources of deals, and then I talk about my secret weapon strategy for finding the most profitable deals. That is going to completely change the game for you because if you use my secret weapon, you will be the only person talking to these sellers. You're the only one, and when I'm the only person talking to these guys. So
Guys,
let's move.
I hope you hear this.
Well, because
This.
again, Antonio, you're talking to these guys too, right? And if you're the
Mhm,
only guy talking to these sellers, right?
mhm.
How much competition is there? I mean, that's the beauty of this thing.
Right,
If there's no competition, it's a green field for you, right?
right. Everybody's focusing on whatever, the single family, which is, you should make money in that too. But
Right.
this just seems like it's just like you're the only person talking to the lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing, man. Right?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to module three, analyzing apartment flips. This one actually is not a very complicated module because it's really very easy to do this. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to take you through jargon and terms and demystify and define the things you need to know. Okay. I'm going to take you to the very simple four-step analysis to analyze any flip deal. Okay. We'll talk about deal margin. Um, Deal margin is market value less what you're going to buy the building for. Okay, market value. So what somebody could sell it for on the open market, not how much you could flip it for, but market value minus what you're going to pay for it. And what you're going to do is you're going to split the deal margin with the cash buyer to make sure they have a good deal. So I talk about deal margin in a lot of detail, and we talk about how to calculate your flip price so you're in a big fee and so your cash buyer gets a great deal. And again, why do you want, Antonio, you know this, why do you want your cash buyer to get a great deal on the first one?
Because he'll come back to you.
Because you want them to do the second one,
Right.
right? I mean, there's no easier way no easier thing than to have a ready cash buyer waiting. And if you give him a great deal on the first one, he'll be back for a second one. And I talk a lot
Absolutely.
of here in this about why greed will absolutely kill your business. If you're greedy on this, there's plenty of money to go around, folks. There's plenty of money in the universe. Why people get so greedy on this stuff, I do not understand. But there's plenty of money out there, and so greed will kill you in this business and most businesses. So we'll talk about that, why you shouldn't get greedy. Let's talk about module four, finding cash buyers. And this is like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, I'll give you one. My tip, honestly, my biggest tip on this is go to your RIA meeting while you're going to talk to the apartment guys, the apartment owners at your real estate investor association meeting. Most real estate RIA meetings have a open mic session at the beginning of the meeting. All you got to do is go up there and stand up there and say, "Hey, I'm Joe. I'm an apartment flipper. I'm looking at deals in the 20 to 30 unit range, and I'm looking at XYZ price, whatever that price is in your market. And call me if you want to get on my buyers list, or email me, or see me during the meeting. I guarantee you're going to have 5 or 6 people come over to you, and that's going to be the beginning of your buyers list. And you may not ever have to do anything ever again. You may get your first buyer right from that group of people. But when you develop, I tell you, for the first one, it may take a couple of those things, but once you develop a reputation as being somebody that knows how to locate good deals, you will never have to worry about finding a cash buyer ever again because they'll be lining up at your door. I mean, I have them lined up at my door all the time, and I haven't done one of these in months because I can't find any to do.
Hmm.
So, and we talk about again, one of the things that's going to happen in this is that you look at this, the second main bullet down there is that you're going to deal with a lot of scumbags in this business. People are going to want to steal your deals. You're going to be finding great deals. People are going to steal them from you. People you thought were your friends. I had that situation happen, and I talk about that in this module on how to prevent that. And that's why I use non-compete, non-disclosure agreements and proof of funds. and I use those as my screening devices to screen out these cheats and idiots. So this is a really it's a key module for you.
Is the NCND, is that similar to like a memorandum for apartment buildings?
No, not it's a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement. Basically, I make them. I tell people in general terms about my deals, but if they want to see any specifics, any real hard numbers, they have to sign a non-compete, non-disclosure agreement with me, saying that they will not tell anybody else about this deal and they can't go around me.
Mm,
So, and I will, and mine is, I had my lawyer look at mine here, and I recommend that people. I'm not a lawyer, and so I don't recommend you use mine, but have a lawyer look at yours in your local area. It'll cost about $50, and then you'll be golden, and it's totally enforceable, Antonio. That's the great thing.
absolutely. Good
So
stuff.
yeah. Oh, and this is module 5, not module 4. Sorry about that. I forgot to change the number. But it's negotiating the deal, assigning the deal, and getting paid. Some of the most important things. This is, again, another beefy module. Negotiating the deal is pretty easy. Assigning the deal, again, is pretty easy. It's one single form and getting paid. I walk you through the offer process. I talk about presenting the deal properly. Again, because we're dealing with apartment buildings, we're dealing with one step up in sophistication here. We're not talking about slinging wholesale houses back and forth. I love wholesaling. It's wholesaling houses. It's profitable. It's a lot of fun, but and it just it's great. But wholesaling and flipping apartment buildings, you're dealing with a whole different class of buyer. So you need to present the deal properly, or else you're not going to get any credibility. So one of the things I'm going to throw in for you is my deal evaluation, or my deal pitch package, and that's going to help you with this. So it's critical, absolutely critical that you present your deal properly. We'll talk about negotiations, how to assign the deal. Again, like you do in when you wholesale single family houses, you're going to have to quarterback the deal to make sure it closes, make sure any problems get ironed out before closing, and I show you how to get paid at closing. Again, if you want to take advantage of this as we're going along with it and skip the rest of this, feel free. Go to firstdealeasy.com/action taker and you can get all the information there. So, okay. Um, Now here's the deal. Don't get overwhelmed by all the jargon, or I'm sorry, don't get overwhelmed by all of this because I'm going to teach you how to do this step by step and without all the jargon, without all the language, and that only people inside the business can understand, which drives me absolutely nuts. So I'm going to teach you the process of flipping apartment buildings, what's involved, and how long it takes. I'm going to teach you where you should be looking for apartment buildings to flip and exactly what the right types of buildings you should be looking for when you're just getting started in order to maximize your cash flow and minimize the time it takes. Because really the whole reason why we're in apartment or investing in general, we want to get checks. We're not in here to study stuff. We're in here to get checks, and I want to make sure you can do that as fast as possible. I'm going to teach you how to find the buildings to flip. I'm going to give you the exact word for word questions you should ask the seller, how to analyze the numbers in about 15 minutes to determine if it's a building that makes sense to flip, and a whole lot more. And as I'm including in here all of my resources, my deal analysis template. And Antonio, I've been doing this all along. I completely forgot about the video. Thanks for reminding me. My
Hmm.
deal analysis template with an accompanying video that shows you exactly step by step how to use it. My deal pitch package, which is a Microsoft Word document that what you need to do is just put in, erase my numbers or delete my numbers and my text and put in your own text and your own pictures, and that'll be your pitch package will be done. I've got cheat sheets and study guides and checklists and case studies and a ton of stuff in here to really make sure that this is 100% comprehensive. I want to make sure that this is the only apartment flipping information that you need to buy ever. And in addition to all this stuff, I'm going to throw in a couple of bonuses as well. Let me tell you about those right now. Let's go to the next slide, Antonio, if we could. The first bonus is my 15 module apartment building quick cash train program. And this is on how to buy your first apartment building using none of your own cash. Look,
Wow. Wow.
the fact is, like we talked about before, Antonio, I love the cash from flipping apartment buildings. It is life changing, and it made a complete. It was a complete life changing thing for me and my family. But the fact is, buying and owning apartment buildings is the way to build true wealth. Because really, once you buy one, it keeps paying you cold hard cash month after month, over and over and over again, without any real work on your part. It's really the case of do the work once and get paid forever on these things, which is what's cool about them. And let me tell you this, like I said before, when you start flipping and do a few deals, I guarantee you're going to be blown away when you realize the cash flow that these buildings generate. It's going to make your eyes pop out. And based on the feedback from my students, you're going to decide you're going to want to keep some of them. And I told you before about my student Gene. Let me tell you about him. he found a cool 12-unit building that was a great flip candidate. He called me about it and he said, listen, I'm going to, he said he was going to make what, $30,000 on it from just doing, I think, 5 hours worth of work. He thought, I mean, it was totally a slam dunk to make 30 grand. But when he dug into the deal a little bit more, he looked at the numbers using my spreadsheet. He realized that he was gonna throw off about 4 grand a month in net cash flow, and that the kicker was unbelievably, Antonio, that the seller was going to finance it completely,
Hmm.
so he could buy it for $0 out of his own pocket. I think he had to pay like 4 or 5 grand in fees, or for the inspection and some closing fees and stuff like that. But he basically got this 12 unit for 4 or 5 or 6 grand that he borrowed the money anyway from a private investor. So he calls me and says, well, Dennis, I can either make 48 grand a year on this in net cash flow, or I can make a quick $30,000 check. What should I do? I said, well, what do you think you should do, idiot? Like, no, I didn't say that. I said, and he said, well, that's what I thought. I said, but and he told me the same thing as the other students. And he goes, well, I never ever thought I'd ever be an apartment owner. I said, well, welcome to the club. Now it's time to start. He goes, it's that easy. And I said, it's that easy. And so he's, again, one of a number of students that I had that literally said they never thought they'd ever be apartment owners. So they see this eye-popping cash flow, so they end up wanting to buy. So here's the thing. So I'm including this training because even though you may not see yourself as an apartment buyer right now or ever, or think you're ever going to buy one, I guarantee you that you're going to come across an apartment building that you're going to want to keep. So I want you to be prepared when it happens to you happen to find one, so you don't have to scramble to figure it all out. Because again, the last thing I want you to have to do that is to lose a deal because you're not prepared. Okay, so that's why
Right.
I'm throwing this in.
Right. And let me I'll go ahead and add into guys the link firstdealeasy.com / action taker. Action is a capital A and taker is a capital T. So the A and the
Yeah,
T
sorry.
is capital. So
Yeah,
that's
sorry, I
one.
couldn't fit those on these slides, Antonio.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, and let's look at the second bonus. Go to the next slide. The second bonus is something I've never offered before, and that's 90 days of free coaching in my private members-only Facebook group, and that's starting from the day you sign up for the program. And that's 3 months of coaching by me. And if you think about it, you can flip your first apartment building in 90 to 120 days. So if you think about this is free coaching for a long enough period of time that if you act on what you learn in the apartment flipping quick cash program, you can get coached absolutely free all the way through your first flip deal. Okay. You can get your questions answered about areas to focus on. We can strategize together on the best buildings in your market to pursue. I can coach you on how to find the help and resources that you need. We can analyze deals. We can talk about finding buyers. In short, you get any and all the questions that you have about flipping apartment buildings answered while you're in the hunt and while you're out there doing it. And again, you're going to have access to me personally in this members only group. It's not just someone who's paid to answer questions or somebody that works for me. This is me just doing this myself. I'm a geek for this stuff. I love the teaching is some of the most fun stuff that I do. So it's just me in this. And the kicker is you're going to be able to interact with other students in the program as well who are doing the same thing. So you can compare notes and share experiences. Because I'll be honest, I've done this, I'm successful at it, but I don't know everything. So there's people that have done stuff that I haven't done, or you'll be able to compare notes with those folks and really kind of accelerate your journey up the learning curve that way and get that first flip check fast, which is the name of the game here. So what's the deal on all this? Well, first I should share I have made tens of thousands of dollars from apartment buildings over the last 6 or 7 years, and I've paid over $60,000 in seminars, coaches, programs, mentorships, and personal coaching to learn these ropes when I was getting started with apartment buildings. I've just spent a ton of money. And I've personally taught these techniques to just under 1,000 people over the last about 4.5 years. So after I distilled all this down, everything I had learned, done it a few times, and then I'd removed all the phony complexity, and I've demystified apartment buildings. I originally thought about rolling out this apartment flipping quick cash program for 5 grand. Okay, and really just based on the cash people could make with it. I mean, is it fair to charge 5 grand for a program that you could make 30 grand in your first 90 to 120 days?
Right.
Well, yeah, right. But clearly, again, we're here. It's a sale. You're on the webinar, and I really want you to sign up for the program. So, and I want to serve you as well. I want to take care of you, and I want you to get going on this right now. So you can get in this program today for just one payment of the $497 by going to that link down there, firstdealeasy.com / action taker. Okay.
Hmm.
And most importantly, if you go to the next slide, Antonio,
Wow,
This is,
497 bucks to make potential 20, 30, 40, fifty
yeah,
thousand bucks. Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
It's a no-brainer, man.
Well, plus more importantly, it's completely risk-free. So you have my full 30 days, and I call it my brass balls, no questions asked, 100% satisfaction money back guarantee. Period. If you're not completely satisfied with this training and all the bonuses I'm including, even after you've gone through the whole training, then all you need to do is send me an email within the first 30 days, and I'll refund the entire $497 in full. No risk, no harm, no hassle, and no questions asked. I am that confident that this is going to be a game changer for your family like it was for mine. I'm that confident. All I need to do is go to that firstdealeasy.com/action taker link to sign up for the program now. Now, go to the next slide if you could. I got a
Hmm.
couple of things you need to know. One of them, like we talked about, the deadline on this offer is 48 hours from now. So please sign up today. Just get it done. Get in there and start taking your training. It's worth it. And because of this free coaching offer that I made, and this is the real reason why I got to shut it down in 40 hours. A, this is a test, but B, um, if I get a certain number of people that sign up in the next, before the 48-hour period expires, I'm going to shut it down because I want to make sure I do justice to everyone that signs up since I'll be doing the coaching myself. And there's really a limit to how many people I can effectively serve with it. So if I get enough people that sign up and then, say by tomorrow afternoon, I'll just shut it down then. And, you'll have to wait until I reopen it in another few months to get in on it if you don't sign up. So the bottom line is just go sign up right now. Okay, let me kind of recap the bonuses we go to, Antonio, on the next slide, if you could. Here's a recap again, and what I want to do is recap the two bonuses and then tell you about a special bonus you get again that I'm going to throw in as well, just as a thank you for sticking with me on the webinar and because I honor you for that. So you get my 15 module apartment building quick cash online training program worth $297. This bonus is incredible because again, it's going to teach you how to build real wealth for your family and really create a legacy for them. Okay, and the next one on the next slide. The second thing again is that you get the 90 days of free coaching,
Wow.
also worth 297. Again, I've never offered this before. I've never offered a 90-day coaching program before because quite frankly, my time is worth a lot more than 300 bucks. Okay. But I feel strongly about this. It's made a monster difference in the life of my family, and I want to show you how I can do that for yours. So make sure you take advantage of this before it closes down. And now on the next slide, there's one extra thing I want to talk to you about. Now, again, it's amazing. I really appreciate the fact that you guys have stayed with me to the end here. And so for those of you that have, I have one more thing to give you that I think will really, really, turbocharge your apartment investing career. And again, it's a thank you for sticking with me this long. And on the next slide, Antonio, what
Hmm.
I'm going to do is give you my 11 module real estate private money 101 training program. Now, again, I want to make this perfectly clear again. I'm not throwing this in because you need it when you're flipping apartment buildings, because you will not. It's not necessary for flipping. But again, I want you to be prepared when you find the apartment buildings that you want to keep. And I'm betting that I'm going to guarantee you that you're going to find one in the first 4 to 6 months of doing apartment flips. So the truth is, excuse me, while you can do apartment flips all day long and all night long without any money, you will need private money when you buy an apartment building. There is no way around it. Over the last about 3 years, I've raised a little over $1.6 million in private money for my real estate deals. And the kicker is, I've never asked a single person for a penny of it, not once. Every single person that I use as a private investor, they've offered their money to me, and two people have actually almost literally chased me down to loan me money. It's pretty amazing, and it's all because I've become a master of attracting private money. And this program will teach you the same thing. It's got as it has for dozens of my students who have put it to work for them, and I'm offering it to you for free. Again, if you sign up for my apartment flipping quick cash program in the next 48 hours. So when you think about it, you're getting three of my very best programs ever offered anywhere. My apartment flipping quick cash, my apartment building quick cash, and my real estate private money 101 course. All, only because you're the ones here on this webinar listening to this right now, and I'm going to shut this down in 48 hours. So go out there and sign up today at the link. We go on the next one. Just a couple more things. The next
This is
slide,
this
Antonio.
this is a
Yeah,
huge opportunity, Dennis. Wow, you're giving
yeah.
away. Wow.
Yeah. I want
Huge.
to. I want again. I want to be the guy. I want to be the guy. Honestly, I want to be the guy who makes positive change in people's lives. I mean, again, apartment buildings changed my life, and I want to help it change other people's lives as well. So again, the link to take advantage of it is down at the bottom. Firstdealeasy.com action taker. To recap again, module one, apartment flipping basics, the process of doing apartment building flips. Basically, I don't want to go through all this again, but basically I teach you the end-to-end process for flipping apartment buildings, starting from scratch, knowing nothing about them. Okay, so just know that you're going to get the comprehensive and complete training course. Again, there's no upsell on this at all. It's just 100% content, and it's all inclusive. So again, and the deadline to offer again is 48 hours. I just want to make sure you know that. I don't have any plans right now to open this up ever again. This is a test Antonio and I are doing, and plus, if like I said, if I get enough people in the coaching program, I'm definitely not going to open this back up anytime soon. So I really want you guys to take advantage of this. So join me again. Let's go to the next slide, Antonio. So if you've got it in your mind this year, honestly, to create game-changing and life-changing cash for your family.
Mhm.
And let me tell you what a friend of mine from Montana says. He says his saying is, the time to have the map is before you enter the woods. I thought that was pretty funny. So before you jump into any other training programs that promise you tons of cash or the elusive financial freedom, or honestly, if before you spend one more minute with any real estate investing strategy that you're using right now and staying at the same level at, let me show you how to amplify your cash flow by showing you how to flip apartment buildings using none of your own money or credit. Apartment buildings, folks, have been around forever. The demand for the right buildings is huge. Cash buyers are everywhere, and virtually nobody else is doing these. Like I said, I get calls all the time from buyers all over the country, wishing that someone was doing this in this market, so they could have something to buy. So to get what you want, cash flow, all you've got to do is help these other folks get what they want, and that's apartment buildings. So become a professional deal finder, flipping apartment buildings, and make five-figure checks. I hope this webinar has served you guys. I'm going to end it officially and remind you that the offer expires in 48 hours, so don't delay and sign up today. Antonio, I don't know if we've got any questions or whatever, but again, the link is down there, firstdealeasy.com/action taker. Antonio, I don't know if you've got any questions or whatever, but I'm happy to take questions if you want to do that, or if you want to just end it, it's up to you.
No,
Whatever
no.
you think.
Well, we can open up question. Anybody, raise your hand if you have any questions. We'll definitely try our best to get to you. We got a lot of people on this webinar here, but raise your hand, guys. If you got any questions, should have a bar there that allow you to raise your hand. So don't be shy. Okay. Dennis and I here, mainly Dennis is here to answer your questions on how to wholesale and flip apartment buildings. All right. Any questions, guys? Don't be shy. Raise your hand. Oh, we do have a couple people.
Great.
Okay. Okay. Let me Okay, we have a question by the name of, let me see, Garland Reynolds. Are you there, Garland? Garland, are you? Can you hear us? Yeah, technical. Garland Reynolds, can you hear us? Maybe put a chat. See if you can hear me in the chat in your chat box. Okay. Um, Garland, are you there? One more time. I hear some extra air on, maybe not. Okay. You hear that extra air?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Yeah, maybe having technical difficulties. Any more questions, guys? Hey, see, I see a question by Captain Kangaroo. I like that.
Yeah.
Hello, Captain Kangaroo. Are you there?
We're just having all kinds of fun with this
Yeah.
webinar tonight, aren't we,
Right,
Antonio?
right. I hear air on his end. I'm the
Yeah.
same air as from the last attendee guy. Captain Kangaroo, are you there? If you can put a chat in the box to let me know if you can hear us or not. Wow. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to raise your hand. Okay, I got Samaj Richardson. Let me see. Hello, Samaj. Are you there?
Yes.
How you doing, Samaj? How you doing today?
All right.
Okay. I'm sure you have a question. Congratulations for being on this webinar. This is a huge opportunity that a lot of people are overlooking that can you can make a fortune. So feel free to ask any questions you want to Dennis Fassett.
Okay. So I know we don't need money to put down on the deal to wholesale the apartment, but I know for certain we will need marketing money for marketing. So how much do you think that as a flipping your first deal, how much money do you think you need to put into marketing?
Marketing what again? Can you be more specific?
Marketing to find your buyers, marketing to find your seller, things like
Oh, well,
that.
you know
Just
what? If you use it for finding sellers, you may have to. Again, I like direct mail, and that's what I'm going to teach you. That's one of my secret strategies in the program. So you have to spend some money on stamps and envelopes for direct mail, but that's about it. I mean, it's really pretty straightforward. It's not very expensive. I think my marketing budget is I mean it's probably less than $50 a month for the letters and envelopes I send out. It probably it's $25. Actually, the stamps push it up to about $50 a month. That's right. But I don't spend any money finding buyers at all.
Right.
I do it all locally. It's all word of mouth, Craigslist. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways we do that. I show you do that in the program, but marketing expenses for finding buyers is zero. Seriously.
Right, right. So now, to add to that, is it way less marketing in the apartment flipping game than like single families?
yeah, because I know single families it's a lot more that
Right,
you have to do to it.
No, I mean for apartment buildings, it's not. I mean there are fewer apartment buildings there are houses. You target specific areas, so you kind of know what you're going after. So it's very straightforward.
right, right. Yeah. So Samaj, you're going to kill your competition with this type of flipping this type of niche of wholesaling apartment buildings because it's way less marketing and less competition by far.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Uh, good question. All right. Okay. Any more other questions out there, guys? Okay, I still see. Okay, I still see Garland Reynolds, Captain Kangaroo.
Well,
Let's
have
try.
them. I tell you what, Antonio, have them email their questions to you, and
Okay.
then if you want to forward them on to me, that'd be great. I'd be happy to. I can respond to you and then copy them or however you want to do it. So if they have questions, I'd be happy to answer
Okay. If you guys well, anybody else raise your hand if you have any questions. Let me see. Okay. A lot of people are shy. Wow. Feel free, guys. It's the only way you're gonna learn by asking questions. No question is a dumb
them. Right.
question. But if not, guys, you can email me at prolificmentor@gmail.com. That's prolific, PROLIFIC, mentor at gmail.com. If you have any questions, and I can send them over to Dennis, and he can answer them for you guys. But feel free. I mean, this is an open discussion part right now. So if you have any questions, I don't know if Samaj might have another question. His hand raised back up. Let me double check.
Oh no, I
Oh,
don't have another question. I'm sorry.
okay. I saw your hand raised back up. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
All right. Okay, we can hear him.
Yeah.
Try try these couple people one more time. Hello, Mr. J Johnson, is there? Okay, try calling him. Hello, Mr. Garland Reynolds, are you there? Maybe they don't have mics on their end. That's maybe why they couldn't speak. All right. A lot of people could be on their phone too.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So, all right, go to like Dennis said, firstdealeasy.com / action taker. The A is capital, the T is capital as well, just like you see it, action taker. Firstdealeasy.com / action taker. And you said what 48 hours? You're taking it down, Dennis?
Yeah, 48 hours from now. So in a
Wow.
couple days. So let's get in. And again, because I'm doing this free coaching deal, I'm actually really excited about that. I love Facebook has just been really cool for this. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I will have to close it down early if I get a certain number of folks because I want to make sure I do justice to people. I don't want to just pack people in and then have it be worthless for them. I want it to be of value because again, this is such a game-changing thing. I just want everybody to experience this. So
Right.
that's kind of my thing. So seriously, guys, go there, firstdealeasy.com/action taker. Take advantage of this program, the bonuses, my coaching, everything, and let's do this. Let's get together on this, and let's make some money. Seriously.
All right, guys. Well, we definitely appreciate you, Dennis, on this webinar today for sharing your expertise in the apartment investing niche.
Yep.
It was an honor to have you on this. And anything you want to share before we end this webinar tonight,
No,
Dennis?
Antonio, I just really appreciate you having me on. I know you're one of the leaders in this business, and again,
Mhm.
I'm honored that you want to do business together. So I appreciate it, and I really, I love the job that you're doing on this stuff, and it's great to be associated with you, and I appreciate it again.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Dennis. And
You
we'll
got it.
talk. All right, thank you.
Take care, guys. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Bye bye.